All right. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Today for the invocation, we have Ken Bernard of Good Shepherd Church, and leading us in the pledge will be Hildy Angus. Pastor Bernard.
Most merciful God in heaven, you hold in your hand the might of men, and you've ordained powers that be for the punishment of evildoers and for the praise of them that do well. We humbly beseech you, Lord, graciously regard your servants, the governing body of this county. May all that receive the sword as your ministers bear it according to your commandment. Enlighten and defend them by your name, O God. Grant them wisdom and understanding, that under their governance your people may be guarded and directed in righteousness, quietness, and unity. Protect and prolong their lives, O God of our salvation, so that we, with them, may show forth the praise of your name. Lord Jesus, grant your protection over all our elected officials. Energize them with a growing knowledge of their duties. Bless their working style and polish their techniques of work management. Inspire their relational skills with their constituents. Enhance the health of our elected and appointed officials and their families. Lord, give them joy and service and patience, especially on the difficult days. Thank you, Lord, for those who lead us and govern us. In Jesus' holy and precious name we pray. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Supervisor Angus.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I have a motion to call, for purposes of making sure we're all good for the meeting, is Supervisor Johnson on the phone?
I'm here.
Great, thank you, Supervisor. May I have a motion for an executive session to be held July 20th, 2015 at 9:30 a.m. or at the conclusion of the regular meeting, whichever is later, for discussion and consultation with legal counsel in accordance with ARS Section 38-431.03, subsection A, 3, and 4, to discuss items not noticed on the agenda with an asterisk.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 1, discussion of pending or contemplating litigation claims and demands. Attorney Ekstrom, I assume that there's nothing on the agenda for this day?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Attorney Ekstrom. Item 2, committee and/or legislative reports. I'll start with Supervisor Johnson. Is there any reports, sir?
I have three today, Mr. Chairman. First one's on privacy implications for smart devices and social media in the workplace. It was a webinar, was hosted by LexisNexis, and went over the social media policies and case law regarding social media and mobile devices. The first speaker was an associate of Nashville office, some attorneys. She spoke about social media policy strategies. She said the social media policies are important because they tell employers how social media should be utilized as it relates to the company. They can sometimes be hard to implement because they must not be too restrictive of an employee's personal freedom of speech. They should clearly outline and implement a company's goals regarding social media use. She went on to state that a social media strategy should outline how a company deals with issues or migrates or mitigates crisis relating to social media. Issues may include using social media to increase customer interaction satisfaction, or chain of command when there is a discrepancy about the appropriateness of potential posts. She said a crisis situation may include a disgruntled employee or customer posting disparaging remarks about the company to a company's mistaken link to an inappropriate link on Twitter. Next, another partner of an attorney's office spoke about social media and the law. He said there's no specific federal law to regulate employers' use of social media in hiring decisions, but there may be state law implications. He said some states require companies to get permission from candidates before doing social media searches. One way to mitigate this problem is to create a separate HR function to review social media information. Those making hiring decisions remain blind to only the relevant facts. Another solution is to conduct the search. An in-person interview has occurred. This eliminates the possibility of being accused of not following up with potential hire for reasons related to gender or race. We also then had another speaker on the privacy information governance practices, and they spoke about the National Labor Relations Board and social media speech, Section 7 of the Act, which gives employees these rights: organize, form, join, or assist in a union, to bargain collectively through representatives of their own choice, to act together for other mutual aid or protection, to choose not to engage in any of these protected concerted activities. NLRB says employers may not fire employees' speech is simply critical of the employer, regardless of whether the speech occurs at the office or on social media. He went on to say the policy should be specific, instead of simply stating that employees may not disclose confidential information. Social media policy should define confidential information and provide examples. Policy should remind employees to disclose their affiliation with the company whenever they post about the company. Implemented clear policies that protect employees' rights to discuss wages and working conditions. Make clear that all communication on company-owned devices might be monitored. Prohibit inappropriate postings that may include disciplinary remarks, harassment, and threats of violence, similar inappropriate or unlawful conduct. Consult labor and employment specialists before disciplining an employee for personal social media speech. Finally, Brock Wainless, he's the Assistant General Counsel, Groupon, spoke about when social media is used inappropriately and how companies need proper crisis management. He stated that studies show that sharing about oneself on social media has the same sensation on the brain as earning money or eating food. When dealing with company-owned social media, employees who manage these pages should be instructed to monitor them regularly and report any appropriate behavior to a superior. Next, he talked about the mobile devices and bring your own device policy. He said one size does not fit all when it comes to cell phones and social media policy. When allowing employees to bring their own devices, companies need to have a policy for it. It's important to define who needs mobile access and who wants mobile access. Just as an aside to that, I don't know if you saw today in the Arizona Republic, we're talking about basically freedom of information and government records, saying that, Facebook posting by elected officials could be, subject to freedom of information. The next webinar I had was on the state of cybersecurity, and it was put on by the Center for Internet Security. Jeffrey Mann, a cryptanalyst, security strategist for Tenable Network Security. He started the webinar by going over the 30-year background in cybersecurity. He mentioned he started working 30 years ago. Nobody cares. He mentioned that he will still fighting 20-year-old vulnerabilities. Major corporations facing breaches like Target, Sony, Anthem, etc. Default settings and sharing passwords is a major issue today as it was back then. We do have new problems such as mobile security, cloud-based security, and securing the Internet of Things. Threats, he said, are somewhat similar to what they were 20 years ago. We still have threats such as hackers, terrorists, national intelligence, criminal activity. But the movies are similar, as well as the access to the data, stealing money, disruptive operations, etc. So this strategically regarding cybersecurity is a problem, and it hasn't changed much. He said we have too many solutions. Someone will install a firewall or antivirus software, and they think they're safe. However, there are several other solutions people can install as well, such as the VPNs, two-factor authentication, password vaults, etc. It uses people, and most will stop at antivirus software. He spoke next about what makes networks secure. He said having no written corporate security policy is the main reason networks are insecure. A lack of communication and awareness is another reason. He said the solution to fixing our cybersecurity issues is that security requires a systematic approach. Corporations need to assess what they are today, document where they want to go, and implement security architecture. He said the policy is the strategy. He said security without policy is simply technology, and information security policy defines information security objectives and priorities, states the what if, and defines responsibility for protecting assets. It will serve as a foundation for all security efforts. It will also define justification for the money needed to be spent on security and the impact imposed on end users. Mentioned that policies usually fail because of insufficient resources to complete the efforts outlined in the policy, or because the policy does not accurately reflect the security needs or a risk profile. It can also fail because the policy is not supported by senior management or made sufficiently visible. The last I attended was the Desert Tortoise Management Oversight Group, or MOG. The meeting started with a brief overview of what the MOG is. The MOG was recently put together again and has spent the last year and a half trying to find ways to better protect the desert tortoise. They had 3 meetings in the past year and a half and feel they're on their way to a great recovery plan. They did mention that tortoises' numbers are not great, despite spending several years and $500,000 on tortoise recovery by the Nevada government, $500 million by the Nevada government. The numbers of tortoises continue to decline. As a group, MOG feels they need to prioritize better on what to do with the recovery plan, which is part of their goal. During the meeting, representatives from different states spoke about what they have been doing in regards to recovery. Nevada's first, and they are the one state in which tortoise numbers are improving. They feel more on-the-ground recovery planning needs to occur. Representatives from California said that all 5 of the 7 states and the DOD, who have been working on recovery, need to work together instead of separate. They said in California, the western region of the Navy has taken the lead on the recovery plan, but they still feel all different plans out there should come together as one. Jerry Hillier, who represents us on Quad State, said that he spent a great deal of money, or he sees a great deal of money being spent on recovery over the years with very little results. He hopes the MOG can bring coordination and research together to focus on the important parts. It was noted that despite the DOD's involvement in the recovery of desert tortoises, that they were absent from the meeting. One of the important aspects of the meeting focused on developing recovery goals. MOG members spoke first on top range-wide recovery actions. The top recovery actions are to restore habitat, educate folks on recovery, to decrease predator acts, to have a better target of predator control, to install and repair tortoise barrier fences, to minimize grazing, to restore roads and signs in defense-protected areas. MOG executives recently did a survey of what folks felt what projects funding would focus on. The survey resulted in the following projects. The I-40 tortoise fencing project, burned habitat restoration, Nevada range-wide raven control, US 95 tortoise fencing, Highway 395, 58 tortoise fencing, and the Northeast Mohave Seeds of Success program. The survey also produced results monitoring the search needs were being met. 45% said the management effectiveness was lacking, and 52% partially agreed that threats to tortoise habitat need more research. That concludes what I had to say, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Johnson. Supervisor Watson.
Thank you, Chairman Moss. I've been working pretty closely with Congressman Gosar on the downwinders issue. He was unable to get that issue on the House Appropriations docket. And in doing so, there was an agreement made with the Senate, and the Senate is willing to put an amendment on the military appropriations portion of that, and then if it goes back to the House of Representatives, there will be no opposition. The problem is, I've been unable to reach anyone at Senator Flake's office. Matt Capalbi, a person of interest that's working with me on that, is working diligently to try to get that done also. But I'm afraid I don't have a good report this morning on the downwinders issue. Had Senator Flake taken the initiative to put the amendment on the military appropriations and passed, the House would have signed on also. I'm sorry to report. That's what I have this morning.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Watson. I have a very small and very brief report. Some of you may be aware that I serve on the Arizona Water Banking Authority. The northern section of this water basin, which goes into the Rocky Mountains, had a very, very wet May. So the prospect of drought conditions being declared has been pushed back to late 2017, which is very, very good news. It doesn't mean we're out of the woods, it just means we bought a little extra time. Supervisor Bishop.
Good morning. I do have a report. Last week, I attended, along with 100 other county officials, the Arizona Association of Counties Leadership Conference in Pima County. I participated in an interesting personality assessment, and my color was identified as orange, so I just wanted to... I was just notified my microphone is turned off, so I'll start again. Last week, I attended, along with 100 other county officials, the Arizona Association of Counties Leadership Conference in Pima County. During that time, I participated in an interesting personality assessment, and my color, according to this assessment, was orange. So I just wanted to say hello to all of my orange friends out there in the audience this morning. I also attended a media training by David Levowitz and learned some social media tips from ACO's Executive Director, Jen Marson, which goes along with what Supervisor Johnson just shared with us. We had a discussion about the Independent Redistricting Commission history, and there were some guest attorneys there that shared their insights and offered predictions on what we can expect to happen next with that. We learned about a new civic engagement platform called Arizona Voices that all of us can get on the internet and follow legislation along with public opinions with things that are of interest to us personally or the county. And then we finished up that conference with a speaker who made us all reevaluate who we are and where we're going, and it ended on a real positive note. So that's all I have to report. It was a pretty informative event. And
Thank you, Supervisor Bishop. Supervisor Angus.
Nothing this morning, thank you.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Angus. Going on to item 3, County Administrator's Report. County Administrator Hendricks, do you have a report?
I have no report today, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much, County Administrator Hendricks. Going on to number 4, approval of the May 18, 2005 Board of Supervisor meeting minutes. May I have a motion?
motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent, thank you. Call to the public. I have one call to the public form filled out. Clinton Rodenbaugh. Mr. Rodenbaugh, if you can approach, state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to make comments to the board.
My name is Clinton Rodenbaugh. I live in Golden Valley on Magma Street, 3468 North Magma. My concern is all the other elected boards in the community all hold their meetings at a time where people aren't at work, and you guys could get a lot more community participation, I feel, if you guys would hold them in the evenings when the majority of people aren't at work. And I feel that being on an elected board, you guys should be interested in the public's views and stuff, and with you guys holding them at 9 when everybody's at work, you guys just don't get the participation I think you could get otherwise. And
Thank you
that's
very
all I
much,
have.
Rodenbaugh. That was a very good comment. Thank you very much. Going on to the consent agenda. Supervisor Watson, are there any items you would like to have pulled from the consent agenda?
Nothing to pull this morning.
I also have nothing to pull. Supervisor Bishop.
I do not have anything.
Supervisor Johnson.
None, thank you.
Supervisor Angus.
None for me.
All right, may I have a motion on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item 39, opening the public hearings. Adoption of the Board of Supervisor Resolution Number 2015-104, rescind and cause the property to revert from a C-2H General Commercial Highway Frontage Zone to the previous zone of AR Agricultural Residential 1 acre minimum lot size for failure to meet the conditions of approval as specified in Board of Supervisor Resolution Numbers 2002-301 and 2003-325. Which conditionally approved the rezone of Assessors Parcel Number 225-27-020B in the South Mohave Valley vicinity, northeast corner of State Highway 95 and Cottonwood Lane, Mohave County, Arizona. The Commission recommended approval by the unanimous vote. I'm opening the public hearing on this item. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak? Seeing none, I am closing the public meeting on item 39. May I have a motion from the board?
Make a motion for the adoption of Board Supervisors Resolution Number 2015-104.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Going on to item 40. Adoption of Board of Supervisor Resolution Number 2015-105, amendment to the Mohave County General Plan from an LI, Light Industrial Land Use Designation, to a CR, Commercial Recreation Land Use Designation, and an amendment to the Yucca Area Plan from an LI, Light Industrial Land Use Designation, to a CR, Commercial Recreation Land Use Designation for assessor parcels number 207-9-003, a portion of Section 29 lying east of I-40 in Township 16, 1/2 North, Range 18 West in the Yucca area, Mohave County, Arizona. This item was continued from the April 8th, 2015 Planning and Zoning meeting. Commission ultimately recommended approval by unanimous vote. I'm opening up the public meeting. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on this subject? Seeing none, I am closing the public meeting. I may have a motion from the board.
Make a motion for the adoption of Board Supervisor Resolution Number 2015-105, amendment to the Mohave County General Plan.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 41, adoption of Board of Supervisor Resolution Number 2015-106, rezone of assessor parcel number 207-19-003 from an AR-10A agricultural residential 10-acre minimum lot size zone to a C-RE commercial recreation 1-acre minimum lot size zone to allow for a race and test track and related facilities in the Yucca vicinity, south of Santa Fe Ranch Road exit, east of I-40, north of Paloute Drive, west of India Road, Mohave County, Arizona. This item was continued from the April 8th, 2015 Planning and Zoning meeting. Ultimately, the Commission recommended approval by a unanimous vote. I'm opening this up for a public meeting. I do have one person signed up to speak. That is Raha Redman. I hope I said that first name correctly.
It's an old German spelling for Ron.
Okay.
All right. My name is Ron Redmond. I live in Golden Valley. I moved here about a year ago after retiring from a long service in the fire service to my community. In my spare time, I opened up a drag strip for the local community benefit to try and give the kids something to do to get them off the street. This is an opportunity for this community to be able to grow in so many different ways. In the next 10 years, they estimated they'll need 14,000 more additional mechanics, automotive technicians in the automotive industry. It allows for parents to take their children to a facility where they can do things together, working on automobiles and enjoying races and facilities. In 2007, my Hot Rod Heritage Weekend race that I put on the 4th of July had an attendance of over 8,000 people, which isn't a lot when you consider our county only held 43,000 total population. We had record numbers for all the gas stations, grocery stores. Our Denny's had a record that still stands today for the amount of sales. This allows for opportunity for significant revenue within your community. It allows for an opportunity to get some of the kids off the street to keep out of gangs, gives them a chance to get an opportunity for a future and for future advance in their career in the automotive industry. It allows parents to spend time with their children, to be able to give them some time for group and some bonding time that's always very important in today's society. All these factors coming together in a great big picture that allows you as an opportunity today to move forward for something for this community for it to be able to grow. I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on item 41 of the agenda regarding the racetrack in the Golden Valley and Yucca area? Seeing none, I'm closing the public meeting. May I have a motion on item 41?
Make a motion for the adoption of Board of Resolution Supervisors, Resolution Number 2015-106 for the rezone of assessor's property number 201-19-103.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes. Going on to item 42, adoption of Board of Supervisor Resolution Number 2015-107, rezone of assessor parcel number 204-35-181 from R-E/1A residential recreation 1 acre minimum lot size zone to a C-RE/2A commercial recreation 2 acre minimum lot size zone to allow for the development of a motel in the Wallapai Mountain vicinity, Flag Mountain Road, south of Wallapai Mountain Road, and Lodge Lane, Mohave County, Arizona. The commission recommended approval by a unanimous vote. I'm opening the public meeting on item 42. Is there anyone who would like to speak on item 42? Seeing none, I am closing the public meeting on item 42. May I have a motion on item 42 from the board?
I'll make a motion for the adoption of Board of Supervisors Resolution Number 2015-107, the rezone of assessors parcel number 204-35-181. And that's my motion, but I also wanted to state that I was up there yesterday and saw the improvements that the owner wants to do, and it's going to be a nice asset for Mohave County and the Wallapai Mountains.
Excellent. Is there a second?
Gladly second that motion.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes. Going on to the regular agenda. I'm going to take 43 as that's listed first, and we have a guest from the Wallapai tribe here. But then I'm going to take some executive privilege because we have a lot of people who would like to speak on item 45, and I'm going to move item 45 to immediately following item 43. So for those of you out there wearing orange and yellow shirts and other types of shirts who would like to speak on item 45, you're coming up the next after this item. Item 43, discussion and possible action. Ray, authorize the Public Works Director to sign a letter of concurrence permitting the Wallapai tribe to include 42.17 total miles of county-owned and maintained sections of Antares Road, Pierce Ferry Road, Upper Trout Creek Road, Lower Trout Creek Road, and Boggles Ranch Road into the Indian Reservation Roads inventory. This is continued from our June 15th meeting. I will turn it over to the boards for questions or discussion. We do have Philip Wisely of the Wallapai Indian Tribe who is here to answer any questions. Is there any commentary from the board? Supervisor Johnson.
Are we done with public input, or?
There's no recall for the public on this issue, and we're out of the regular, or the public hearing. We are now on the regular agenda.
Sounds good. The only thing I have the same objections. We've lost a tremendous amount of business in the area dealing with the last road that we had to deal with federal government and the Indian Nation, and I oppose letting this happen.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Johnson. Any commentary from Supervisor Watson?
Yes, I do have a question. Would it be possible to include only a portion of these roads? That would be, what I'd like to include would be Antares Road and Pierce Ferry Road, but not include Upper Trout Creek Road, or Lower Trout Creek Road, or Boggles Ranch Road. Is that a possibility, Administrator Hendricks or Steve Letowski? Can you answer that question?
Please.
Good morning, Chairman Moss, members of the board, Supervisor Watson. Correct, that is a possibility. Per the board's direction, Public Works can revise the letter to the Wallapai tribe and chairperson counts as the board deems fit.
Thank you. Going further, I would have no problem at all in transferring the Antares Road and the Pierce Ferry Road for the tribe to use, but I'm unclear as to why the justification for Upper Trout Creek Road, Lower Trout Creek Road, and Boggles Ranch Road needs to be included in this. That doesn't mean that it can't come back, but I would just like further study and further justification for those other three roads. So I'm willing to make a motion to
Supervisor Watson, I'll gladly entertain your motion, but I probably should go through the other board members first. I have no commentary on this except to say that we do have a tribal member by the name of Philip Wisely who's here on this issue. If Mr. Wisely would like to speak on this issue, I'd be more than glad to surrender my commentary to him.
Thank you, Chairman Moss. I'm Philip Wisely. Just to set the record straight, I work for the Wallapai tribe. I'm not a tribal member.
I apologize.
That's okay. They refused to give me a blood test, so there we are. What I can tell you is that just like Diamond Bar Road, the only way that the tribe can improve roadways that are off the reservation is to get them included in the inventory. It's starting, basically, it's a long bureaucratic process in which we can spend our funds. Unless we have those roads included in our inventory, we're not allowed to spend funds on them. That means to include roads that are off-site or off-reservation in the inventory, it doesn't change ownership of the roads. It just allows the tribe to contribute funds to improve those roadways. And the only roadways that we are allowed to improve are restricted to roadways that provide access to Wallapai lands, whether it's reservation lands, fee property owned, or lands that are owned by what's called allottees. Allottees are lands that were given to individuals of the basically tribal members, and then over time they've given it to their descendants or people they consider family. And you'll find property, especially in the Wickiup area, that is allotment land as well as reservation land and fee land that has the Wallapai have an interest in. The allottees own the land in mass. It's not like they own a quarter section of the quarter section or whatever. They all own it, the entire property at once. So it can make for a very confusing issue. The idea to provide access to those properties for the homeowners or for the property owners is, and the only way to spend tribal funds on it is for the tribe to include those items in there on the list. Right now, the list that was provided to the county was a list that was all-inclusive, anything that we might possibly see in the future. There are some, of course, that have a higher priority, and Terrace Road is one of those. The Wickiup area, we don't foresee anything in the near future, but we will probably continue every year to ask for those roads to be included in the inventory.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wisely. Supervisor Bishop.
Yes, I do have one question, Mr. Wisely. The funds from the tribe, should they be provided, would that be for the tribe to do the actual maintenance on these roads, or would that money be transferred to the county for the county to do the maintenance of the road? I'm a little confused with that.
Basically, the funds are what's called tribal transportation funds. Only a portion can be used for maintenance trusts, which is a portion of our annual receipt of funds from the Federal Highways Administration. And they're similar to your HERF funds. And I realize that it's been some lean years with the HERF funds. But as far as the mechanism for making it happen, we basically have to jump through hoops with each and every situation. Everyone will be different. So it may be that we can contribute funds for maintenance on roadways or just improving the roadways so we minimize the maintenance costs long term. It all depends on what the tribal interest is, whether it's a short-term fix or a long-term fix.
Okay, and one last question. Would that be coordinated with Mohave County Public Works if you were going to do an improvement, put a bridge in or something of that? Would you
Most definitely. Mohave County would be part of the solution.
Okay, well, that's very generous, and I like the sound of that, so thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wisely. Supervisor Angus?
No.
Is there any other questions before we go to a motion from a board member based upon the presentation from Mr. Wisely or a commentary from the board? Seeing none, I think you are on the verge of making a motion, Supervisor Watson.
Thank you, Chairman Moss. Yes, I'd like to make a motion for the acceptance of Antares Road and Pierce Ferry Road and permitting the concurrence, permitting the Wallapai tribe to include those in their road inventory, reservation road inventory. And I might add, as a side note, that I'd be more than willing to look at the other roads at some point down the future. But my motion this morning is to, for those roads to be only Antares and Pierce Ferry Road for adoption.
And to make sure I'm clear, Supervisor Watson, we're saying essentially we're approving item 43, but only as to Antares Road and Pierce Ferry Road.
That is correct.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Item 43 passes as to Antares and Pierce Ferry Road on a 4-to-1 vote. Going on to item 45, those of you who are here on 44, it will be out of order. Thank you very much, Mr. Wisely. Thank you very much. So item 45, I have item 45, which is discussion of possible action to rate Mohave County personnel policies and procedures as presented at the May 18, 2015 meeting. This was continued from our June 15 meeting. I believe this only has to do with PTO. We have many people signed up to speak on this, which is why I'm taking it out of order so we can put the employees back to work if they choose. The first person signed up to speak is Verlyn Tennell, our clerk of our Superior Court. Ms. Tennell.
Chairman and Supervisors, thank you for this opportunity. Since my name started with T, I thought I'd be way down the list. So,
I have way too many to alphabetize. I'm sorry.
as an employer of many of the county employees, I'm a little bit concerned, and quite frankly, I would have rather gone after some of the discussion. But in having read, Chairman, your proposal, I had some concerns. Obviously, when we hire employees, we give them the benefit package. And many people came to our county based upon that benefit package. In the future, when we hire people, I have no objection to hiring based upon whatever our policy and process is at the time. However, having been an employee at one time, I would be very upset if somebody came in and took my benefits away, or what I considered my benefits, and that I had worked long and hard for. We almost seem like we're punishing people who have been thrifty and have done what others in county positions have told us to do with our PTO. Bank it, save it, use it for a rainy day, wait for an emergency. We don't, at the time, don't have short-term disability. You'll need those hours. And now we're punishing them by saying, you've got to use it, not necessarily lose it, but you're not going to accumulate our next edition of the benefits if you don't use it right away by December 31st. Our courts will be devastated if we don't have these employees to run the courts. We won't be able to staff them. Our budget was based on longtime employees who are very efficient at their jobs. When they leave because they don't like the new policy and they'd rather have their 900 hours of payout or whatever it is, then we're going to be training new employees. We're going to be definitely understaffed. And your proposal, Chairman, says basically 2 hours per pay period after the second year. That gives them a 1-week vacation and 12 hours to take care of any of their students. If I have a child in school and I have to go to any of their events, or renew my driver's license, or make my doctor's appointments, I'll have 12 hours to do that in a whole year. I know my time is up, so we also have, the carryover. If we have to use this by December 31st, we'll have to close down the courts because we have very thrifty people who have learned to only use their PTO when it's necessary or for vacations. So they're going to want to use their time on December 31st. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Verlyn. Next up is David Huerta, who is one of our Justice of the Peaces. Judge Huerta.
First of all, thanks for that. I just came up here to speak on behalf of some of the employees here, but thank you, Chairman Moss and the Board of Supervisors. You know what, I was asked by staff members to speak on their behalf, and you're going to hear from more than enough employees or people who are going to be able to state their concerns about the adjustment and the paid time off far better and more so than I. But as a supervisor over the court, You just heard Verlin speak very well about the aspects of the court and the draw that it could make upon it. I came over from the state after many years, and what I'd like to point out is the level of employees, of professionalism that we have within the county and within the judiciary especially. I was very impressed with the people that I've worked with during the time that I've been here, lucky enough to have been here. My concern is going to be like any other supervisor. We want to draw in quality employees. We want to maintain our quality employees. I look at the proposal, and there's going to be people who have far more knowledge than I what that actually is. What I do worry about is the high quality of employees that we currently have, jeopardizing the possibility of losing those employees, and then the future employees, what we're drawing to come in and work for our court system. I've had the opportunity to go through the states and talk with numerous other judicial officers, and we have a very high standard and a very good reputation within the state. In fact, Mohave County has a good reputation when it comes to whether it's judiciary, our government, our employees, and just citizens that we have here. I worry about taking away the opportunity to keep those people within the county, and I worry about the opportunity for drawing in additional quality employees. All I ask is if we have to go down the path to adjust paid time off or the benefit packages that involve our employees, is maybe we have the opportunity to draw from some of the long-standing employees, directors, or other people to maybe have input that maybe we could come to some type of compromise in the future. I think everyone's goals here is to stay within our operating budget. Everyone's goals here to keep and maintain our qualified and our employees that we currently have. Hopefully, we maybe take a step back and find out a way of doing so, because as of right now, it's the talk of our courts and the number one thing on everyone's mind, and I'm sure this is a tough decision for all of you up there. I know about tough decisions, that we have to make them every now and then. All I ask if maybe you give the opportunity to some of these people to have input. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Going on to Sean Sneva. Mr. Sneva, if you can come down, state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Sean Sneva, 10194 Townsend Place, Mohave Valley. In regards to our PTO time, it is my understanding that this would only affect the rank and file of Mohave County. And I don't know. We were told to save up our PTO time for emergencies and so forth. I think if we go along with this proposal, it's basically stating that the employees take a pay cut. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sneva. Next is Beth Cordes. Ms. Cordes, if you can state your name and address for the record.
Morning. I'm Beth Cordes. I live at 2720 Wickiup Avenue here in Kingman. I'm a 16-year county employee, and I'm also a taxpayer and a constituent. The only thing I want to talk about right now, I know we don't have limited time, is that everything everybody's saying is true. We didn't get anybody into this position. We are the rank and file employees. We need to have input in there. We did not overspend. That wasn't us doing that. And we seem to be being punished for it. I think the proposal that Supervisor Moss put out here is crazy. We are not the best or the worst in the county or the state. I believe you guys got some more input on that this morning. Outside employers, private employers, they have much better policies. We are not better than them, and this will make it much worse. And there are facts behind that. Bureau of Labor Statistics alone speak of it. This started back in 2003. I was there when they put this PTO in effect. I was part of that. They did it because we weren't getting raises. They did it because the STD policy went away. We did not have sick pay any longer. So they combined all that together so we could still maintain a healthy family lifestyle and get compensated for being good employees. And we were told to maintain our PTO, which is not only our responsibility, but our managers and supervisors. So if it got out of hand and people went to 900 hours, there's other people to point the finger at than the ones that were managing it. We do need to be able to take care of our time off, to take care of our families, to be sick when we're sick, to be healthy, to be able to take vacations. Vacations are an important part of working in an area where maybe you are stressed out a lot. And I think taking our PTO policy down to this level is not fair to the employees, is not a good thing, it is not healthy, and it is not a way to improve Mohave County hiring and retention. It's a bad way to go, and I believe we deserve better than that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Tortoise. Next up is Bill Whiting. If you can state your name and address for the record, Mr. Whiting, or Whitting, I'm not sure I pronounced it correctly.
It's Whiting. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Board of Supervisors. My name is Bill Whiting. I reside at 2530 East Thompson Avenue, Kingman, Arizona. And I oppose to the current question of the Agenda 45. I would like to remind one of the supervisors that at one time she was a Mohave County employee, Mrs. Bishop. Here at Mohave County, most of us learn how to save for our security, not only for us, but for our families. Our families depend on the PTO hours to help support them through FMLA times and other circumstances. The current policy is a security supplement for us and our families so that we can be able to rely on it when we need it. Let's be reminded that the years ago when people of this country established an insurance policy for their security, which was a savings account for them. As the government seen how much money it was being saved in growth, the policy, the government decided to take control of it, and the people call it Social Security. Need I say any more? Carol and I feel that the current PTO policy that was created for us before July 1, 2015, we have earned it, and we should have the right to keep it, and to be able to continue the current policy that intact for all current employees and shall not be changed at all. As of July 1, 2015, we do believe any changes to the PTO hours should be changed for the new employees of Mohave County workers that hire on or after July 1, 2015. Now that being said, please let me remind you, the baby boomer generation will be leaving the workforce, and as that happens, the current PTO hours created for us within the current policy will be decreasing the amount of PTO hours on the books. The new policy that is proposed will reduce the amount earned and the amount that will be paid out for the new employees that come to work for Mohave County on or after July 1, 2015. Let the new policy be created for the new employees of Mohave County to build themselves. This is a win-win solution for all of us. Please, with a good conscience, decide what's the right for our current employees and keep the ones we have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Whiting. Next up is Mr. Thomas Degnan. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly. If you can come and state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and the Board of Supervisors for letting me speak. I'm Thomas Degnan. I live out in Golden Valley at 3857 Bowie Road. I've been with the county almost over 11 years now. I used my PTO. Luckily, I had PTO when I had my, when I had my, when I had to use it for surgery. I had over 600 hours in the books, and I used almost all of it. I also used my PTO to be with my family. I use it to be with if they're sick, to be able to take care of them. I oppose the new one because of this. You know, I work in the town for the county, and you people rely on me to, when the roads are damaged by storms and stuff like that, you people expect me to go out there and clear up the roads and make sure it's passable, you know, make it safe, and I do this. I do it because it's part of my job, you know. Anyway, I really oppose this, and there's a lot of reasons for it, and I'm not the only one. But thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you very much, sir. Next up is Barbara Potter. Ms. Potter, if you can step forward, state your name and address.
My name is Barbara Potter. I live at 2105 East John L. Avenue. Excuse me. I oppose this. We've been told over and over that if you add all of our benefits together, that we have a great benefits package here at the county. Well, that was before everybody's medical premiums increased. That's before our out-of-pockets, our co-pays, our prescription costs now doubled, and now our PTO time is on the chopping block. I've worked for the county for 19 plus years. I've seen our health insurance costs rise. I've seen no raises, but we've always been loyal to the county so that when people have retired, we've been able to move into those positions, and we've not received a cost of living raise. It's always been to almost cover our cost of insurance, our almost cost of retirement to cover those costs. If this current proposal passes, any medical event that will leave employees, especially the new hires, in financial crisis. If you have to be out of work a continuous amount of time, and usually it's 30 days for the short-term disability, you don't even have enough PTO time to fill that gap. You wouldn't be able to bank any of those hours. The short-term disability doesn't even allow you a full paycheck. So without a PTO to help bridge that gap, you wouldn't be able to cover your cost of living. We don't even have enough PTO time to cover FMLA circumstances. And no matter what happens, whether it's FMLA or whether it's a sick time, if you're still required to pay your medical premiums. If you don't have any PTO to help give you a paycheck, you are not going to be able to do that. If we go back to the previous reduction of banked hours to make everybody use their banked hours, excuse me, then you're going to put the departments into a bind as to try to get those people to get their hours down to what you want. By doing that, you're going to, in fact, cause shorthandedness in the departments. Then the public service will, in fact, be a situation where we will not have good public service. Benefits between the public sector and government employee has never been the same and should not be compared as such. But if you're going to compare some of them, you need to compare all of them. If you remove or lessen our benefits, you will lose skilled, loyal employees to the private sector, and services to the public would deteriorate, and mandated state procedures will not be completed timely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up to speak is Jennifer Birch. Ms. Birch, if you can state your name and address for the record.
Good morning, and I would like to refrain from my address as I work with the public and I don't want them to have my address.
Just state your name or your name and your city.
My name is Jennifer Birch. I'm a in District 4 Golden Valley resident, senior housing specialist of Mohave County Community Service Department. Been employed with the county since 2004, and I'm here to address the PTO policy. First, I'd like to say that I really must not be smarter than a fifth grader, as I had to Google search that word draconian, the term Mr. Moss used in his own description of the proposal. It means harsh, severe, drastic, stringent, tough, and extreme. To say the least, the proposal you are offering the county employees is extreme, harsh, and drastic. I also asked Google for an example of how to use the word draconian in a sentence. The example was as follows. When the rich believe the poor will revolt and seize their property, they react by trying to impose draconian restrictions on the poor, i.e. extreme, harsh, severe, stringent, and tough policy changes. This change could result in catastrophic events within the county, resulting in the loss of many jobs and limiting the pool of professionals that would not consider employment with the county based on the proposed benefits. In my life, I have really not had a lot of jobs because I've always been committed to my employers and maintain longevity in my workplace. I have been employed and I have been an employer. I owned a business for 11 years. Where I provided a appropriate wage, at least 2 weeks of vacation, and provided health insurance to my employees. Under your policy, you're proposing 3.25 days for the first year of employment. Pretty damn ridiculous. I also have some questions, and I can just bring these up to you if you'd like, Mr. Moss. Or if you'd like for me to read them, I can read them.
If you could, hand them to Supervisor Watson. They'll hand them down the line.
All right, thank you. Very quickly, I won't go over the questions, but I think you ought to review them. I, sir, reject your proposal. I request the Mohave County Board of Supervisors to support their employees and reject the last two proposals that have been put on the table, as they are both unjust and potentially catastrophic to the county, and the work with the employees to come with a reasonable agreement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Burke. Next up is Ron Baldwin. Mr. Baldwin, if you can step up, state your name and address, and make your comments to the board.
My name is Roy Baldwin. I reside at 3829 North Rainbow Drive, Kingman, Arizona. I'm part of your management team for the road department. It seems like I understand you guys have to make hard decisions here with the budget cuts and the economy, but we have a precedence that that's all been done on the backs of our labor force here. In the road department, we are hired in at the lowest point of our wages. We do not have merit raises, and there is very, very limited opportunity for movement up into a higher position. As has already been addressed, our benefits have been reduced, premiums have went up, and now the proposal for the PTO. Anybody that proposes over a 70% cut to any wage should really consider their position on this board. It's just preposterous. You know, our PTO was tied in as a benefit because we were self-insured here. It's tied into everything that we have here. All of our benefits, our short-term disability, FMLA, everything else is contingent on our PTO. And yet you would leave us with, what is it, 1 hour? 26 hours a year? That's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. You know, we've already had to assume positions to where our positions above have been eliminated. We are doing the jobs of 2 to 3 people already, you know. We've taken all of this with a grain of salt, and we've done what needed to be done because it's the way it is. It's the economy. But we have taken all these restrictions, and yet all of our at-will employees are still getting raises. They're still eligible for greater benefits, and none of this has affected them. I find that offensive as well. Truthfully, that's about all I have to say on the subject.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baldwin. I do have Ms. Birch, you referenced a list of questions. You actually handed us a copy of your remarks. There's no questions in there. Did you perhaps give us the wrong piece of paper?
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah. I'll trade you. There you go.
That's not a problem.
Next up is Dan Brackney. Mr. Brackney.
Good morning, Board. My name is Dan Brackney. I live at 4435 North Glen Road. Been a county employee for the last, I'm going on 5 years. One of the reasons to come to the county, I wished I'd have done it years ago, and I've had several good jobs, is the benefit package. PTO being number one on the list. You get over a certain age, you need more time off. I'm going to have surgery in December. I'm going to need some time off. I've seen the county wages on that paper we've seen there. They're not listed. The wages, our wages in Mohave County are lower than most of the counties. You take away our PTO, you're pretty much shooting everybody in the foot. Morale here is terrible. If you don't think so, look at the turnover rate. People leave because of that. It costs you guys, I don't know how much, but it costs a lot of money to train a guy just to run the stuff we do every single day. We come out in all kinds of weather, 120-degree heat. It's raining, it's snowing, we go plow the hills. And you guys want to take away basically our home life and whatever we have left. And this is a great job, don't get me wrong, but don't take our PTO. You guys, if you think the morale is low now, it's really going to get bad, really get bad. Thank you, that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brackman. Next up is Greg Van Diver. I hope I said that correctly. Van Devere. If you can state your name and address for the record, sir.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Board. My name's Greg Van Devere. I live at 1103 Western Court, and I was born and raised in this county. I have 2 points that I'd like to make. I've looked at the job descriptions for all the jobs, and if you go from everything from library to justice to public works to all kinds of things, they require advanced degrees. It's going to be difficult to attract and retain people with advanced degrees. My second point has to do with travel time. Mohave County is rural, and you have to go to major airports away, and 2 of those days that you're proposing are going to be sucked up just in travel time. That's going to leave a person 1.5 days approximately to visit with their family. How can they go fishing with their dad? How can they go shopping with their mom, rest when they get home? Young people like to go home and visit their families. I have 2 kids that are just finishing up with college now. So they like to come home, visit mom and dad, and be with their familiar surroundings. So if you have a young person with a college degree that wants to move here from Ohio or the East Coast, how are they going to do that with this time off policy? It's ridiculous. That's all I really have to say. I hope you consider this carefully, because you do need qualified people to take care of gray-haired old people like me, that are going to leave in a few years. And I hope you consider this carefully. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Next up is Jim Parks. Mr. Parks, if you can state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Board. My name is Jim Parks. I'm the Executive Director of the Arizona Conference of Police and Sheriffs, and we're located at 333 West Fort Lowell Street in Tucson, Arizona, and we are opposed to the current question. As Cops represents over 2,200 law enforcement officers and public employees statewide, which includes the Mohave County Deputies Association, as well as Mohave County probation officers. I'm here today to appeal to your sense of fairness, integrity, and character, that you will abide by the contract that the Board of Supervisors entered into with the Mohave County employees when hired, as it pertains to the current PTO policy and benefits. These are benefits, not gratuities, that can just be taken away. They are part of a contract. Vested benefits. Benefits that are no different than pension benefits received from the state. A few years ago, the state attempted to stop the COLA that had been promised to the retirees. A lawsuit ensued and the courts overruled the state, and back pay was awarded to the retirees. Why did the state fail? Because the courts found that the pension system and the COLA is a contract and it cannot be changed without permission of those that are participating in the pension system. In 2012, the state changed the retirement requirements. Instead of being able to retire after 20 years of service, anyone hired after January 2012 is now required to work 25 years to be eligible to retire. This only applies to new hires. The state did not try to change the retirement dates for those already vested in the system because the state was bound by contract, just as Mohave County is bound by contract. Your county employees rely on their PTO benefits and was never led to believe that those benefits would diminish. They believe these benefits to be part of a contract. By violating this contract, you're more than likely violating the county's duty of good faith and fair dealing. Now, what about the unintended consequences of your decisions? How many deputies and probation employees will walk away from Mohave County due to the lack of pay and benefits? After year one, the county will have spent over $60,000 training a DPO 1, $65,000 on a DPO 2. I have spoken to one probation employee that has trained at least 10 new hires over the past 10 years. Would it surprise you to know that not one of those probation officers is still employed with the county? It will cost the county and its citizens approximately $100,000 to train one new deputy from pre-hire to the point that the deputy can function on their own. Over the past 10 years, there has been approximately 67 new deputies hired. However, approximately 76 deputies are no longer employed. The question now becomes, when you have a mass exodus of employees, what is your plan to attract new candidates? How do you calm the citizens of Mohave County when they come before you with public safety concerns? These are only a couple of questions that you will have to answer before making that decision. As the state of Arizona has learned, one can change policy that affects new hires, but they can do no harm to those that are currently under contract. Mohave County can change their policy, the PTO policy and benefits, to affect all new hires, but they can do no harm to their current employees. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Jason Foos. If you can correct my pronunciation, I would appreciate that. Foos, thank you. And if you can also state your address for the record.
Good morning, honorable members of the board. My name is Jason Foos. I live at 214 Silver Street in Kingman, Arizona, and I am part of the Mohave County management team. Every discussion worth its salt should include the bad ideas and unpopular concepts in order to strengthen the meritorious. While I appreciate the examination of benefit comparisons to small and local business, I wish to emphasize to the board that the county surpassed any comparison with local or small enterprise decades ago. I encourage the board to make decisions and invest in policies that will attract and sustain skilled and capable employees now and in the future. Thank you for your time, your consideration, and your service.
Thank you very much, sir. Next up is Michael Gerdell. Girady, okay. If you can state your name and your address for the record, sir.
My name is Michael Geraci, and I live in Kingman, Arizona here. I'll refrain from giving my full address as I do work in public safety field.
If you can state the name of your city then, sir.
Kingman. I'm a new father. I had a new baby in December of 2014. I've been with the county for about 5 years now, and that gave me the ability to spend quite a bit of time with my daughter. I took a vacation a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to take a vacation coming up of just a week each. I'm allowed that because of our PTO policy. I have a young family. We're all relatively healthy, and I'm very thankful for that, and I'm blessed to be in a flexible position where I can take that time off. I think taking that away from us would be something that would be very detrimental to employee morale, and I think it's a very important aspect of working for the county here. We get that PTO. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Next up, Emily Flood. Ms. Flood, if you can state your name and address for the record.
morning. My name is Emily Flood, and like Michael, I also work at Mohave County Probation. Like Mr. Vandeveer mentioned, I am a young person. I came here with a college degree for my job. Taking away the benefits that we have, when you consider we are young people, I'm getting married in October, I would like to start a family. Taking away the benefits would cause a lot of issues pertaining to that. Our job is emotional. Our job isn't 8 to 5. We go home and we carry everything that we deal with throughout the day home to our families. It goes with us everywhere we go. I carry an intensive probation caseload, which limits the time I can take off, considering I do work with high-risk offenders. You know, we all here work for the county because we want to better our community and we want to protect the safety of our public. I can say I'm a young person. I won't plan on staying here and being loyal to this county if you take away the benefits of staying here.
Thank you very much, Jean. Next is Wendy Wiley. Ms. Wiley, if you can state your name and your address for the record.
You have handouts for everybody. Can I bring those up to you?
You start with Supervisor Watson, and we'll work it down this way.
My name is Wendy Willie. My address is 17310 Sundance Kid Road in Yucca. The PTO proposal by Chairman Moss was a slap in the face to all the county employees. It has made us feel that we are not appreciated. In the packet I've given you, there is a spreadsheet of other counties and the city of Kingman and what we receive now in PTO from my years. I've been here for 13 years. Also what the original proposal was and then what Chairman Moss has proposed. The other counties and the city of Kingman offer a little bit less PTO than what we receive here, but I know, I'm not sure about every county, but Pinal County, their pay scale is much higher than here. My position was just open about 6 months ago in Pinal County, and it paid much more than what I'm making here. Their PTO is a little bit less for employees there less than 15 years, but once they're there for 15 years, every 5 years, they are given a 4-week block of time paid off that is not taken off their vacation time as a thank you to their long-term employees. I believe our wages are below other counties and the private sector, and I, for one, know that I can make much more money outside of Mohave County, and I know other employees can too, and I believe you will lose a lot of employees if you follow through on the reduction in our PTO. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Kayla Moreau. Ms. Moreau, if you can state your name and address for the record, please.
Good morning. My name is actually Carla Muro, and I live here in Kingman, Arizona. I just started working again for the probation office after being with them for 2 years. When I started 3 years ago, the benefit packet wasn't that great with the health insurance, so what I found to be beneficial was the PTO. And it helped me once I got sick. I had to take PTO. And unfortunately, since we didn't have short-term disability, I had to resign from my position. And now with this new PTO, I'll be starting all over. And I wouldn't have any hours really to spend with my family if I want to take any time off to, let's say, go to my kids' recital or anything. Also, I don't think you guys took in consideration or any input from the employees regarding this new policy and see what worked better for them, or to come together and come up with a better PTO solution. Also, for the people that have been here longer than I have, they did feel it was a slap to everybody's face, this new idea you guys have. And I would like to see better benefits. My husband works for a manufacturing company, and he has better health insurance, better time off, everything. You know, it's like, should I go back and working, you know, for a manufacturing company? But since I love working with the people, I came back to Mohave County knowing that I can maybe help and come and help the young people and do something better than in a manufacturing company. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Karen Wright. Ms. Wright, if you can step down, state your name and address, and make comments to the board.
Karen Wright, 2285 Comanche Drive, Kingman. I oppose your PTO proposal. Last year, I was good. I always saved my PTO. I had a health surprise, and I was out 7 weeks. I still want to bank PTO, so if I ever have another crisis, I will be paid. In your proposal, it seems like you're going to reward people who don't save their PTO, because if they're under so many hours, you're going to give them sick time. But if I keep my PTO, I don't get the sick time, so I'm going to lose. And I just think you should reconsider your proposal to all us long-term employees.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wright. Next up is Virginia Long. Ms. Long.
Hoping you can see me. Chairman Moss and the board.
Yeah, we can see you, ma'am.
Thank you for hearing me today. I'm here to speak for the little person. I was once a little person at the county too. I worked for 8 years, well, for 13 years, but many years at the road department. I'm a Mohave County resident for 50 years. Oh, I forgot to tell you my address, 945 Riata Valley Road. Don't let me lose my thought. PTO is sick time and well time. And when you're well and you're going on vacation, I think that's just wonderful. But when you're sick, it's not too nice. The only thing, from what I understand now, after 8 years of retirement, is that what protects your job is family leave, a federal program, 12 weeks. That is, to get through that period, you need 960 hours of PTO. If you don't have that and you get to the middle of your, say, 6 weeks and you're out of PTO, they come and say, oops, sorry, you have to pay your medical insurance premium because you're not getting a paycheck. Now, our little people there, and I call them one, I don't want to call them little, I'll call them low level. Some of them start at $13 an hour, and some might even get up to around 20. And some start at a low PTO, and they might get up to 15 after, or 15 is it, or 12 after 15 years. If you have 12 hours of PTO per 26 pay periods, you got 320 hours. That's not going to get you through family leave. Sometimes people, when they get through family leave, they flat lose their job. Mohave County says goodbye. Not all of them, I'm sure, because in the past, when I worked there way, way back, if you had extra PTO, you could kind of continue. You still had money, you're still on the payroll. The medical deductible for a single person now is $1,000. And to get through the 20% you have to pay, you're going to pay $6,500. And when you're making $13 an hour, how in the world can you be sick? The only thing that you can afford is your $35 copay if you have a cold or something. And that $6,500, January to December, you're going to get hit with it again in January. How can the people who make 12 to 20 hours live? How can they be sick? How can they have a medical emergency? They can't afford it. I feel real sad.
Ma'am, you only have a few seconds left. Your red light came on, but take a few seconds, wrap up if you can.
Okay. I oppose the cuts. I'm a taxpayer and a voter now, but I just oppose the cuts because these people cannot afford it. I'm really trying to get through my notes real quick. I apologize if I repeated myself. When I worked at the county road department, I went home at 5 o'clock and it was snowing and it was sleeting. I went home to a nice warm home and a dinner, and I saw those men who are making 13 to 20 hours go out there and beat around just to make everybody comfortable, and I live in awe of them. And as a taxpayer, I'm more than willing to pay for their PTO.
Thank you very much, ma'am. That was my last request to speak form for item 45. Did I miss anybody? Okay. See, I'm closing call to the public. Board discussion. I'll start first because it is my policy which is being under attack. I'll put it that way. For a couple things real first. There are, to my recollection, at least 3 policies floating around, 4 if you count the current policy. The first policy is the current policy. The second policy is that was provided by the administration. The third policy is the one which has been the subject of discussion today. And the fourth policy is the one I also simultaneously submitted with the one that was under discussion from Coconino County as to how they do that. When it comes to my policy, it is the baseline. It is what I wrote up based upon input from roughly a dozen or so business members within the community. It is what they pay, or not what they pay, it's what their employees get. Now, I understand that the county and various other government organizations give a somewhat more generous time off policy. That is fine, but I provided what I considered, what my estimation is the business baseline for consideration of this board. When it comes to this process, the process from this point forward as to whatever policy is being considered is that the board is going to make comments. After I'm done, we'll wrap around the board as to what they would like to see happen. The HR department, and I don't envy his job, Mr. Cunningham is going to have to take the board comments and come back to us with a blended policy which would consider the 4 things that are out there in front of us today, plus whatever comments have been made by the board today. And they'll bring back that blended, what I'm calling a blended policy, back to us at some later date. When we get that blended policy, we will make our final adjustments, and I believe we will then send it off to an employment law attorney to review for legality, to make sure that it is enforceable. Now, speaking as to my policy, if you have accrued benefits, because I heard some people make a mistake this, if you have 900 hours in the bank, nobody is going to take those hours from you. If you have a right to take those 900 hours and cash them out, you still have that right. If you want to take that time as paid off, time off, you can. What my policy does is change the rate of future accrual only. When it comes to the future accrued hours under my policy, my proposed policy, there is no cash out of PTO. PTO is to be taken for vacation time. It is not a savings account to be cashed out for tens of thousands of dollars at the end of your employment term. I did have in their state, it's a use it or lose it policy. If it's 1 week or half a week if you're first-year employment, and by the way, many of the first-year employees that I interact with day in, day out in the private sector get 0 vacation time. They get sick days. Their vacation time starts after the first year. You may think I'm a liar, ma'am, but I believe you're mistaken. When it comes to the policy itself, I believe it reflects the private sector reality. After time, you get upwards of over 3 weeks of time as your time accrues. Yes. I know many businesses, sir, who have not had raises in many, many years. So regardless, when it comes to this policy, that was my proposal based upon what I understand the business reality to be. The board now will go through and discuss what we want to give instruction to Mr. Cunningham on. And I'm going to start with Supervisor Johnson, who is on the phone and has been very patient and has not had to read all the documents that we've been provided. Supervisor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The existing system does not allow the county to function, and it must be adjusted. There's no doubt about that. My recommendation, or for consideration regarding existing PTO, would be, as you mentioned, honor previous limits. Any hours in excess of the cap should be moved to the sick account, though. So people who have over their 4 or 6 or whatever they're allotted, we can move that to a sick account. Going forward, the vacation would be for people 1 to 10 years, 10 days, 10 to 15, 15 days, 15 years, 20 days, and people in excess of 25 years, 25 days vacation, with a bank of 400 hours maximum. If they bank 2 years of vacation, the county could buy back 1 year, full-year credit only, no partial sick days, go starting forward at 12 days a year with unlimited savings. But there'd only be a $3 an hour payout after 10 years and a $5 an hour payout after 25 years. County creates a separate employee benefit line item to fully fund this. Times are changing, the benefit packages are changing. What new employees expect is vastly different from 10 years ago. New employees are no longer staying with the company 20 years. There's no loyalty as they have seen their parents lose their long-term jobs. And the momentum of working for the company has changed to working for myself. We have many challenges when attracting and retaining employees, especially management. If we can't afford to be competitive with salaries, we'd better be offering excellent benefits. We are only as good as the employees we hire. We need to stabilize the issue and show a commitment going forward to allow our employees and their families to feel secure in their future with Mohave County. Their security must be tied to a long-term security of Mohave County. We must not promise more than we can afford to ever give again. Setting vacation and sick leave is only one part of our problem. Planning for a stable financial Mohave County benefits the employees and the taxpayer. We should strengthen our pay scales, merit increases, training, and equipment. This commitment by us give better service to the taxpayers. That's all I had, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Johnson. Supervisor Watson.
Thank you, Chairman Moss. Mohave County has the 3rd lowest property tax in the state of Arizona. And one of the reasons why that is are those people sitting in those chairs in the audience. They pay the price. They put up with years of no pay increases. They put up years with not having their staff fully staffed. We would be not only remiss in our duty, we would be derelict in our duty to make any change in our current employee status. PTO for our current employees is part and parcel of the employee agreement, the employment package contract. And believe me, if you don't believe that, look at the briefs produced by Doug Wall versus Northern Arizona University in 1972. Good faith and fair dealing. That's how we treat long-term good people. These are these are not only our employees, they're our associates. They are the people that help us do the things that we do. I've got no problem at all in changing or modifying the new employee procedures and contract. And HR
I think, has put together a pretty good proposal. It's not that much different from the old proposal. But I guarantee you one thing, we have the best county workforce in the state of Arizona, and they're sitting right out there, or they're driving their cars, and they're doing a great job. So what I would recommend that we, as we go through this triad today, is take care of the employees that we currently have. We can address the new employees, and we should do that very cautiously with a great deal of thought. One of the reasons these people are here is for that paid time off. All I have.
Supervisor Bishop.
Thank you. I have put together some notes, and I'm pretty much with Supervisor Watson. I think some adjustments can be made, and they wouldn't be that painful. So I think that PTO is not just about paid off time. It's about the financial security of our employees. And, you know, it's the time of year we have to consider it because it is the budget process. As a former Mohave County employee, like Mr. Whiting was so elegantly pointed out to me and reminded me, I've also been a department supervisor, and now I'm an elected official, and I understand that vacation time is essential. It's a time for staff to relax with their families and hopefully come back to work refreshed with a positive, cheerful attitude, and that increases productivity and loyalty. And I know that morale is really suffering because of all this discussion of changes, and none of us like change. And I'm hoping that if we do make some changes, that they're minimal and they're changes that you folks can get behind. My opinion is that PTO is a promise. As AZ Cops pointed out, it's a contract we can't take away, and we must honor the current system for existing employees. But hold on before you applaud me. We can revert back to the way it used to be, splitting the accrual bank for vacation and sick time. That's the way it used to be done. There were some problems with management of sick time, and some people abused it, and that's why we went to PTO, so that it was all combined and easily for department heads to manage. But maybe it's time to revisit that and consider going back to vacation time and sick time. I know it didn't work well, but maybe if our department managers managed better, it could be a workable solution. I do support, like Supervisor Watson, the PTA accrual for the new employees. I have no problems with that, and I would vote for it today. I would make a motion that we approve that today. What I think can be done, since now we have short-term disability that's been reinstated, you folks will have that. It's 100% funded Mohave County. That's a plus, that helps. If we establish the split PTO accrual bank for vacation and sick time, or EIB, whatever we want to call it, we could beef up the sick time and add some restrictions for the use of that sick time. We could provide the option for existing employees to immediately transfer 96 hours into the new sick bank once we propose these changes. That would help burn down your PTO a little bit. We could establish maybe an end-of-the-year payout, maybe a half hourly wage for every hour of PTO forfeited when exceeding the established cap, because there's going to be employees that cannot burn that time off. We could establish retirement buyouts for EIB or sick time at $3 an hour and put a cap on that, say maybe 500 hours. And it'd be like a small bonus when you leave Mohave County's employment or retire, a bonus for being healthy and saving the county money. We could transfer unused PTO over the established cap to the sick time at the end of each year. If you can't burn it off, then the excess would be put into your sick time. And we could spread off the amount of time to burn down this PTO to a longer period of time, say 4 years instead of 2 years. Give the employees time to manage their vacation time and enjoy their time off that they've earned. So those are my thoughts. I think we have a contract with you folks, but with your support and your help, I think we could tweak it a little bit and try going back to vacation and sick time and hold our managers accountable and make them manage their employees. And for those like the sheriff's office and one or two person departments that it's ridiculous for them to take much time off, I think we can work with them by extending the time and then being able to put that time into their sick time payable at the end of their employment with Mohave County, a small little bonus. Those are just my thoughts. I don't know if anybody agrees or not, but I wanted to throw them out there, and that's, I agree with Supervisor Watson. We love you guys, and we don't want you to leave, so.
Supervisor Angus.
I want to thank everyone who came here today and spoke your mind. As uncomfortable as this discussion is, I'm glad we're having it. I think we should have had it a long time ago. If you remember, I spoke about it in depth a few weeks ago. I do believe we have to make some changes. I don't even know, and I said this then, that if we can even legally take what you've already accrued, I don't even think that's, as far as I'm concerned, on the table. I'm not an HR person. I'm not an employment lawyer. I leave it to the professionals. I was hoping that our HR department would do a little better job, and I'll be honest with you, on coming back with something that, and Supervisor Watson just said it, it was very much like what we have now, and that was just why we're sitting here today, because that was unacceptable. So I had my assistant put together a package of how other counties do it. I don't believe in reinventing the wheel. It's not necessary. Other counties have gone through this, have gone through sort of the pain of what we're going through now, and it's mapped out in detail how they do it. So I'm hoping that all the suggestions, and what Supervisor Bishop just said, she at the last minute this morning gave me something. I haven't really had a long time to look at it, but she said some very, very interesting thing. And by the way, we got a lot of letters from people, from staff, who came up with great ideas, things that I would never have thought of, probably that just from being in the community and being in families and that have people work for the private sector and other governments and what they do. So there are a lot of great ideas. So what I'm going to ask, I'm hoping that the board agrees, is that all of these ideas that we talked about today, starting with the baseline from Supervisor Moss and all the way up to exactly the way it is today, come to something in the middle based on what other counties do. Now, again, I don't know what legally we can do. I believe it is a contract. And I've said this from the start, and I don't know how it all got intermixed. This has nothing to do with the work, the work ethic. I do believe that we have a great workforce here. But we have to be realistic in the new environment. This isn't 1964 when you came to work for the county and you worked here forever and in governments. Everything is being looked at differently, because everything is changing and the economies are changing. So I hope that you work with us. We'll be fair. I hope you're open-minded. And I hope that our HR department will really, really study what's out there. The information is out there. The details are out there. And talk to other. I had my assistant actually call the HR departments from other counties and talk to them. Ask them what worked and what didn't work. How do they carry over the hours? How do they budget for it? It's not just about what you're accruing. It's about your payout at the end. A lot of counties don't do that. I'm sorry to break this to you, especially in grant programs. The year of the grant, it stays. You use it, you lose it, it's or paid out. These are all ideas that we have to look at as a county, because that's my job. I know you're all doing your job, but this is my job, and I hope we can all work together and come up with something that we can all live with. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Angus. I have a couple questions for County Administrator Hendricks. My understanding is that an entry-level employee gets 8 hours per pay period of PTO. Is that correct?
That's my understanding. Yeah,
Okay.
That's correct.
And is it 26 pay periods a year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the senior employee would go upwards of 12 hours per pay period?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. And I would like to echo something that Supervisor Watson said, and I gave those information just for the viewing public and everyone else who's listening as to the problem that we're dealing with, is that we are the third lowest property tax county in the state of Arizona, which I think should be a point of pride. And I believe we are either the first or second lowest sales tax county in the state of Arizona. So we have done a very good job of keeping taxes very low. What I think we need to be doing, one last data point that I missed. An employee can currently bank up to 900 hours of PTO. Is that a correct understanding?
Just to clarify, an employee can bank up to 900 hours of PTO upon severance from the county. Unclassified employees can get compensated for 600 of those 900 hours. Classified employees are eligible for getting compensated for 400 hours.
Okay.
That 900 hours.
And when I did the math, 900 hours was 22.5 weeks. Okay, so I just want to make sure I had all those numbers locked down for discussion's sake.
And Mr. Chairman, once you finish, may I ask for some clarification?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I will be done in just one moment. I do believe that we have done a very good job of keeping taxes low. I believe that's good for our residents. I believe that's good for business, which is ultimately good for the county. And you had a point of clarification, County Administrator Hendricks.
Okay, and thank you very much. I wanted to say that we truly have a five-star organization. And the reason we have a five-star organization is because of our employees. And I appreciate Supervisor Watson and Supervisor Bishop and the supervisors acknowledging that. Also, in the statement that you made, our taxes are low. I believe we provide a tremendous value to our residents, and it's because of our employees that we do this. And that, coupled with the fact that we have a tremendous amount of vacancies, we are doing the job. We are functioning with the current PTO that is being given, and we are attracting and retaining qualified employees. And that's at least a tribute to what's happening and the amount of PTO that is granted currently. It's my understanding that there is a consensus among the board that existing employees would keep their current accrual because the board considers that a contract. And I'm trying to, and I saw your expression, I'm trying to wrap my arms around what the board wants to do as a whole.
Speaking as my perspective only, accrual was the word that threw me. But if an employee has hours and time earned, I think there is 100% consensus on the board that they keep what they've already earned.
So what I understand from the board is that existing employees would continue to earn the amount of PTO that they currently earn, and that's going to be part of the proposal.
Well, let's go around and ask the board that, because I don't see that as being 100% consensus. As I understand what you're saying current employees would continue to accrue future hours at their current rate.
Yes.
That is something that I would be opposed to.
At least the majority of the board believe that the amount of PTO granted an employee is a contract and actually would be contrary to law if that was changed.
I think we would need to get a legal opinion to say it's contrary to law. Otherwise, we couldn't change insurance benefits, and we couldn't cut pay, and we couldn't give raises.
Okay,
when it comes to that portion, I think when it comes to current rights which have vested and been banked, I think there is 100% consensus among the board that stays. When it comes to future accrual of hours, I'm not certain there is such a consensus. I, for one, am not. Let's just go around and ask the board that
and I
clarify it.
And I appreciate that, because without some of these clarifications, you're saddling staff with an impossible task to bring back a document that really can't be created from this discussion that we've had today.
I understand. On that limited point, Supervisor Watson, do you think that current employees should continue to accrue hours and have the same rights that they have today as under any future system that we put into place?
The system should continue as it is today.
Okay. I always look to my right, and I keep on forgetting Supervisor Johnson on the phone. Do you have that same opinion, Supervisor Johnson?
No, I don't. It's unsustainable the way it is today. No department can run with 39 days accrued off. We change it to a sick leave and a vacation. I think it would work. It would still give pretty much the same amount of time.
I'm pretty similar to Supervisor Johnson on that issue. Supervisor Bishop.
I agree with Supervisor Johnson. I think it can stay the same as long as we can manage it by vacation and sick time.
Oh, okay, so you're saying it can go the same rate, but it has to be bracketed in different areas?
Exactly.
Okay, all right. Supervisor Angus?
I agree somewhat in the middle of there, but I think it's all going the same way. I believe that you can keep what you have now, but I do think the way it is accrued at the rate has to be looked at and kept in line, like I said, with what other counties are doing. So it manages, I do believe in separating it. And then the payout at the end would only be for vacation time and not for everything put together.
Does that provide some clarity to staff? County Administrator Hendricks?
What I understand is that we would try to continue with the roughly the same, whatever existing employees have accumulated today, they're able to keep in accordance with our current guidelines. In going forward with the proposal, we would look at roughly a PTO rate that they're currently accumulating, but try to divide that into sick time and PTO time was what I believe the majority of the supervisors were looking at.
I believe that's true in rough terms.
Okay.
In rough terms.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Supervisor Johnson.
I think we need to look at people who have accumulated over their maximum time and, give them the opportunity to put that into a sick leave program. Instead of saying you have to take vacation between now and next year or whatever, if they have 600 hours, supposed to have 100, they could transfer 200 to their sick leave if they have that short-term disability.
I understand. I think I understand what you're saying, Supervisor Johnson. Was that clear enough to you, Supervisor?
I'll have to, Mr. Chairman, I'll have to listen to that one again.
Okay.
I can do that.
I would encourage you to call Supervisor Johnson, and you guys can thrash it out after the meeting, I suppose. When it comes to the status of this, and this is for the viewing public and the people who are here in the room, nothing is settled. Essentially, what we're trying to do is we are engaging in a discussion as to how we solve our problem, which I think is a $7 million, just under $7 million problem that we have. So, and to at least stop the bleeding. So when it comes to the issue, this will be coming back to the board at least twice more in the future, based upon how I understand the process will work out, and perhaps more. So the discussions will be ongoing. Please engage with your supervisors. Please make comments as you feel to be appropriate, and keep an open mind, and we'll hopefully be able to do this. Can I have a motion that we refer this issue back to HR to take the commentary from the board and to engage with the various supervisors to ensure or to bring back to the board a revised proposed policy?
I'll make that motion to refer this issue to HR and then to come back to the board with a revised policy in, what, 30 days?
I don't know if I want to push it, but I want maybe 60 days, give them
All
time.
right, 60 days.
Right.
Is that okay with everyone?
And I'll second it since I provided the time of 60 days. Okay. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, may I
Yes.
say one more thing? I was, possibly we could give just an indication from HR if they have sufficient information to go forward and how much time frame they would need.
I see Mr. Cunningham, the former Marine that he is, hiding in the back. He was actually keeping a good view on everything for us. He was in the eagle's nest.
Yes, sir. I believe 60 days would be plenty of time. I believe Administrator Hendricks gave us the information that we would need to move forward. So I think we can come back and get that for you.
Okay.
Would it be all right if I call certain board members?
That was part of the motion, which was to discuss it with supervisors between now, and you don't have to wait 60 days. You can bring it back sooner if you're done sooner.
And Mr. Chairman, I had one more clarification,
Yes.
if I may. On future employees, on hiring future employees, obviously the board believed that that's an area that you wanted to see changed materially. If we took a listing of other counties, did the board want to be at the 50% level? Did you want to be at the 75 percentile level? Did you want to be last? Did you want to be first? Could you give me some indication there?
I put together this based on same-sized counties, medium-sized, Mohave County is considered a medium-sized county, and they're all pretty much the same. We are double what the other counties are, as in first-year accruals. So if you want to take this, I've already done some of your work for you, and we actually got some clarification from Yuma, because I was looking at it, and Yuma, it looked like they gave similar, but then when we called, we were told that they do not pay out sick time at the end either. And that seems to be what the majority of the standard is. So I'm not asking for anything crazy, I'm just asking for the standard.
So now by my count, we're at 6 different proposals, which are in Mr. Cunningham's hands. And just make sure that we're all clear. I'll go through each of the supervisors to see as to future employees, what we will be looking to do in comparison to the other counties. Doing we towards the most generous or least generous? And I'll start with Supervisor, I'll start, I won't put Supervisor Johnson on the ropes. I'll go first. I think we should be middle of the road on that. Supervisor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the proposal I brought forward this spring would handle the new people. I really don't agree with get so many hours pay period, probably because I don't understand it. I like, 10 days, 15 days, 20 days, whatever we're going to do, but that's all I have. I can send that to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Johnson. Supervisor Watson.
Thank you, Chairman Moss. I just have a point of clarification and a question for Ms. Lloyd, if she could. Thank you, Ms. Lloyd. A statement's been made that the liability for PTO is $6.1 million. Is that close?
I think that's about accurate, yes. And that includes from 0 up to 400 hours.
Now, in order for that $6 million liability to happen, each and every one of those employees would have to be terminated or quit all that same week?
Correct.
Thank you.
Wait, oh, excuse me. Excuse me.
Supervisor Angus.
Ms. Coral, can you come back? If it's really not important for the books of a county, why would the Auditor General bring it up every year, that this is on the books?
All right, we're talking about the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, so there's been a policy that was adopted a few years ago, and every governmental agency had to begin to put this onto the books and record it, at least as a note initially, and ultimately long-term as a future liability. To ensure, what occurred was in some of the, I'll say particularly, maybe Los Angeles County and a few of the larger areas, municipalities as well, that the promises that were made for the post-employment benefit were not funded in total and caused them to go bankrupt, essentially, or a component of that was a piece of that. So there are actuarial studies that occur to account for the total benefit of that. You wouldn't record the entire amount at any time. Because you know that not everybody's going to be leaving all at once. So it's a modified version of the numbers. I know that a lot of you have received different numbers. The ultimate amount that's recorded on the books is a kind of a modified version of the totality.
Right. Carl, is it a normal standard procedure for counties not to put the money aside? So let's say you have 100 hours, and I mean, that's money that should be coming from your budget. That's never put aside, though. So when employees leave, it's general fund money. No, it's still, that's why we have the problem, right? That's why we have the problem that you can't hire someone until all that money's worked off, because we never put it aside. And I spoke to a few people who said that in the corporate world, that's never an issue because they planned for that. They put it aside, it's carried over, and that's why so many times you have to use it or lose it, because there's no mechanism to put that money aside and make sure that you have it at the end in 10 years when you end up with a $20,000 paycheck that's never really accounted for. And I think that's my big issue. It's not, all these other things I think are things we could go back and forth. To me, it's what happens at the end a lot of times, that it is a big problem that we don't prepare ourselves for.
And some of it is a mix and match in how they're recording that, the money to be set aside. In my previous employment, and we set a little bit of money aside in a separate employee benefit fund, if you will, for the largest payouts. And we had also, like Mohave County has considered, gone through an analogy of what we could afford to do and had sized that back. We did have separate pools, but that's neither here nor there. However, I'd spoken about that with several people right when I first arrived here about, well, how are you managing to do this payout? And in reality, the amount of time that it takes to replace an employee often exceeds 8 to 10 weeks, or at least gets up there. So if somebody had PTO on the books for 8 weeks, by the time that you hire the next person, then you've covered that period of a time. So some of the requirement to cover the time in many departments is really a perception issue rather than a reality issue. For some departments, it is an issue. So in a department where you've got 1 or 2 employees and you'd like to hire even a temporary person, then it's a budgetary issue. But many of the departments where they've got it's the PTO is really not the factor. It's the time that it takes to, send out the advertisement for the position, to receive the applications, to screen the applications, set up interviews, go through the entire process. That person has to leave their employment and give a few weeks of notice, so that kind of thing.
Well, I'm surprised. That's not what I had been told at all. I'm telling you. I'm just telling you what I had been told and one of the reasons that this was a big issue. But it doesn't change anything that I'm saying. I still think that this whole process needs to be changed.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lloyd. Supervisor Bishop, going back to County Administrator Hendrick's question of clarification regarding new hires, did you want to be towards the more generous or least generous or middle of the road counties?
Actually, I think it really stems on what we decide to do with the employees that we currently have, because once we make that decision, then we know where to go forward with the new employees. But I'm okay with changing the new employee benefits.
Okay. Did you want to give Mr. Cunningham any guidance as to new employee benefits? Because he'll be coming back to us in the next 60 days or so with that. I think that's what the question was.
Well, I would say we definitely need to be middle of the road, if not even a little higher.
Okay. And did I ask you already, Supervisor Watson?
I don't believe you did.
Okay, I'm going to get back to you then. Here I am.
Thank you.
Okay.
In light of the fact that we have probably one of the lowest wage rates, we should be very careful in making sure that we include in our benefit package the best possible package we can, including this PTO, in order to compete with the same size counties that we have throughout the state of Arizona. And actually, we should be better than that.
Okay. Thank you very much, Supervisor Watson. Supervisor Angus, did you have any commentary on that?
Again, and I agree with Supervisor Bishop. I think that what we decide first and foremost for the existing employees, it will be easier to make the decision about new employees. And again, I don't know how many times I've said this, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's already been done. And I would like to see our pay, a comparison chart for us within other same-size counties. It's very unfair to compare us with, like, let's say Maricopa. It's a whole different world. So when we as supervisors compare, we compare like-sized, and I believe we fall right in there. I don't believe that we are paid that much less. If I'm showed differently, I will apologize, but I don't believe that's the case, because I have seen studies. They do studies from the League of Cities and Towns and some of our associations. I'm not minimizing, I'm just saying this is the reality that we're dealing with. And so, I just say, do what the other counties are doing, talk to them, and if it works, then that's what we should adopt.
Is that enough information for you, County Administrator Hendricks and Mr. Cunningham? Excellent. Thank you very much. Do we need a motion to assign it back to staff? Or
I think
we have a pending motion, actually. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There you go. Item 45 is done. Going back to item 44, discussion and possible action. Ray, approve the 2015 lease agreement. I would like to thank everyone for participation. I will say I believe we have set a record in the last 2.5 years that we've had to call the public with the request to speak forms. Thank you very much. Item 44, discussion and possible action. Ray, approve the 2015 lease agreement between Lake Havasu City, Arizona and Mohave County Attorney's Office for office space in Lake Havasu City Police Department located at 2360 McCulloch Boulevard, North Lake Havasu City, Arizona for the annual rent amount of $4,158 paid in quarterly installments for the term July 1st, 2015 through June 30th, 2020 on behalf of Mohave County Attorney's Office. This was continued by the board at their June 15, 2015 meeting. I have one person signed up to speak. Let me double check that. That is correct, and that is Mr. Matt Smith, our outstanding county attorney.
Thank you, Chairman Moss, Board of Supervisors, Mr. Hendricks, Mr. Ekstrom. The amount of lease money we pay to Lake Havasu City is, I believe, $4,158 a year, so it's basically $4,000. If we were to move into the courthouse building, which I think has been at least suggested, talking to my office manager, I think it would cost us about $4,500 to $5,000 a year, because right now we're in the Lake Havasu City Police Department. We don't pay any utilities, and we don't pay any office supplies, and we are able to use their copier. And just the copier alone would be about $4,000 a year. You throw in office supplies, so we'd come out about $400 behind. That could probably end the discussion, but there are a couple other things. First, there's not enough room in the courthouse building for us. There's one office, it's for Lynn Tennell's office. I'm not sure she's willing to give it up. I haven't talked to her specifically about that, but it's too small for our needs. We actually have 3 attorneys that live in Lake Havasu City: Jeremy Huss, Melissa Moore, and Kimberly Ani. And 2 of them spend a couple of days in Lake Havasu City. And right now we're housed in the police department, and our office assistant is in the police department. And there's no way we could put 2 attorneys and an assistant in a small office and carry on business. Probably more importantly, though, is the relationship we have with the police department down there, which is outstanding. And I have a special fondness for Havasu PD because I was assigned there initially when I started in the office. And there's great benefit in actually being in the same building with them. Our attorneys and our office assistant are on the floor with the Chief of Police, Dan Doyle, outstanding chief, and their other command staff. And our attorneys have everyday constant access to the police officers. So they're able to run things by each other, brainstorm. If the officer has a case he wants to talk about, he can go right up and see one of our attorneys face to face. Our attorney can say, well, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do these things to benefit the case and to make it more prosecutable. So that everyday communication and that relationship is invaluable. So since this has been something that's been raised, I'd be happy to answer any questions any of the supervisors have regarding this issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, County Administrator. I was promoting and or demoting you, depending on how you might perceive that. I'll start with Supervisor Johnson on the phone.
Thank you. I have a lot of questions. I guess my first question is, it appears that the county attorneys who are down here basically work for Lake Havasu City, because they're inside a station, inside a lock gate, inside a carded entry. So if I want to go see him, or the public wants to see him, or even one of our deputy sheriffs to drive to the police station, go through security, see one of our public people. I don't believe they're serving the sheriffs, or which I'm guessing that's what our prime duty would be. And it bothers me that we have a courthouse that we've not done one but two remodels that don't have the space to hold a county attorney, because you would think, even as much as some people might dislike the county attorney, we should still have an office. If we're going to be in the city building and all the city detectives and everybody have to walk down and immediate access, then why isn't the city of Lake Havasu giving us free rent? That's all I have.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Johnson. And for the record, Supervisor Bishop, who complimented my son, I agree. Supervisor Watson.
I have no questions. I have no questions.
Okay. Supervisor, I'll go next. I will say, County Attorney Smith, everything you said makes perfect sense to me. So I'll pass it on to Supervisor Bishop.
I don't have any questions.
No.
I could address some of Supervisor Johnson's concerns if the board
feel
wants
free
me to. I'm not sure if there was an actual question in there, but I think there were some issues he raised. And I would tell you, Supervisor Johnson, that our office, first of all, most of the cases we have in Lake Havasu City, a higher percentage there than anywhere else actually come from the police department because of the fact that there are less unincorporated areas there. But we are accessible to the public. I agree it is kind of a bit of a pain to get through the security and everything, but our attorneys actually, we have the use of a conference room there as well that the police department gives us. So our attorneys meet with victims and have victims come to the police department. And I still meet, because I still carry some criminal cases, and I meet with victims occasionally at the police department. So we do have access, and our victims, whether they're Havasu PD victims or MCSO victims, are able to come to the police department, and we do interviews there as well. So we do use the facility and it is open to the public, but I do agree with Supervisor Johnson that it would be nice if we did have a little bit easier access and not have to go through the security of the police department building.
Thank you very much. Is there any other supervisor who'd like to make a comment before we consider a motion?
The only thing I have to say, Mr. Chairman, is I understand Attorney Smith, what he's saying. It's just, it appears to me we look like vagabonds. Mohave County, we have a Mohave court. We added on a court, which has now been put away, but yet we have our county attorney in a Lake Havasu City building. That just is not acceptable. That's all. Thank you.
I will sympathize with County Attorney Matt Smith, as I think I spent my first 2 years as supervisor in a city building out of necessity and because it was cheap. Having said that, can I have a motion on item 44 of the agenda? I'll move to approve item 44 of the agenda.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
4-1. And good luck. Go win some cases, Attorney Smith. Item 46 now. Discussion and possible action, Ray, Mohave County personnel policies and procedures as presented at the May 18, 2015 meeting, excluding Section 3.1, paid time off, to be reviewed for discussion separately. Item 46. I have one person signed up to speak with us. That is Verlyn Tinnell, our clerk of the court. Is she still present? Okay. I'm going to draw a line through it. I would make a comment here that this is almost 200 pages, and I'm still reading, and I'm not all the way through. And since we haven't resolved the PTO issue, I think that maybe it would be a good idea to continue it until such time as PTO is brought back to us, because I consider myself a fast reader, but this is essentially a very large book, and every word means something, and I can't skim it like I would a novel. So can I have a motion to that point?
I'll move to table item 46 for when, how long? What do you
Until
want?
PTO, the PTO.
Until the PTO issue is brought back to us.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
Mr.
Yes, Supervisor Johnson.
Chairman, I placed this on the agenda. How many years has it been now that we haven't had the rules up? Somebody clarify that?
2.5 years since I've been on the board, and probably much longer prior to that. 5 years, according to Supervisor Watson.
Okay, 5 years. I think we need to move this part of it ahead. There's only 3 things in it that I don't agree with, or things that maybe could be changed. I think we're leaving our people in limbo way too long.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
And I do sympathize with your comments, Supervisor Johnson, but until I can get all the way through it, I don't feel comfortable voting on it. Item 47, discussion and possible action, Ray, adoption of Board of Supervisor Resolution Number 2015-111, supporting the United States Fish and Wildlife proposed rule to remove the Wallapai Mexican vole from the federal list of endangered and threatened wildlife lists based on findings determined from the Arizona Game and Fish Department's petition to delist the Wallapai Mexican vole and authorize the chairman of the Board of Supervisors to sign and execute the necessary documents. Is there anyone here to speak on this? Saying none, I'll turn this over to Supervisor Watson.
Thank you, Chairman Moss. I bring this to you for official action, and I'd like to make a motion for adoption.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
Excellent.
Can I make a statement? The vole is a mouse, but this is such a big thing. These kind of small, it's a small, but it's a big victory in our fights against the federal government and how the tyranny they bring with the Endangered Species Act. So I just wanted to get that in.
That is, I will echo Supervisor Angus's comments. The desert or the Wallapai Mountain vole is your common house mouse. It's genetically identical, but because it lives in the woods and they gave it a different name, they try to consider it an endangered species. And I think the Game and Fish Department of the state of Arizona has done an outstanding job pointing out the federal government's foolishness on this particular issue.
Thank you.
We have a motion. We have a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent. 48, discussion and possible action. Ray, provide staff direction to close the budget gap and prepare the tentative budget adoption of July 20, 2015 and final adoption of August 3, 2015. I will start with Supervisor Johnson. Do you have any, this is under Coral Lloyd's name. Coral, do you need any further commentary to us on this before we start discussing it as a board? And then I'll start with Supervisor Johnson after that.
Good morning, and thank you. I just provided you some general information to, again, remind you where we were with the budget that was adopted in 2008 and the preliminary budget that we'd prepared in 2006 for 2016. That was virtually the same amount of money. And as well, we had spoken about some of the state cost shifts, so I wanted to identify those in total, where we came up with those numbers, and what they are valued at the current property tax rate. And then again, a reiteration of just the staff's recommendation was to basically impose a 1/4 cent sales tax rate. Looking to the future, we certainly could adopt a 1-year budget, but the proposal that we were preparing took you down the road 4 to 5 years. We've got a lot of items coming up before you in the future years. It's not in any of our best interest as staff to paint you into a corner where you have to make a short-term decision when you need to be thinking long-term. So that was the main option that we wanted to provide you with and think that through. We would thereby reduce, if we imposed a sales tax increment, then we would recommend that you would reduce the property tax by at least a nickel. After the discussion that was led really by Supervisor Angus on the TV district, we certainly went back and looked at those numbers. It looked like we could absolutely reduce that rate by about 2 cents. In total, it would increase revenue for the county, an estimated $4.3 million. Thereby, reducing that property tax would give back nearly $1 million to the businesses in the communities, and about $450,000 countywide to residential. So that was our primary recommendation. There was a lot of detailed information in there from the actuals of 2012 forward, as well as I've got backup information from 2000, budgetary to actual, and then a few charts and slides to kind of summarize what you're looking at for this current year and where the majority of the expenditures are. In general, the way that Mohave County has done, really, I wasn't here, so this is no credit to me whatsoever, a remarkable job in all of you have done in getting yourselves well-positioned financially for these years of this downturn. In total, the general government, for the general fund here, the general government portions of this, which is quite lengthy, the assessor, the treasurer, the development services area, all of the administration, all of those kinds of functions declined in their budgets about $4 million. And the area that went up was the public safety component went up by about $4 million. And that's overall how the county managed to balance the budget. So that's just as background information going into your deliberations and ideas that all of you provided a lot of thought and input, and I really appreciate that. It doesn't hurt any of us to explore a lot of those ideas and see where we can go from here. So thank you very much, and I will be available for any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lloyd. I'll start with Supervisor Johnson. Do you have any commentary regarding item 48 of the agenda?
No, the only comment I would have is Ms. Lloyd keeps bringing up quarter sales, and I have been strong. She's not going to get the quarter-cent sales tax, and I don't know why we it forward. That's all.
Okay. And since that takes a unanimous vote, Supervisor Johnson's statement is dispositive on the issue. Supervisor Watson.
Thank you, Chairman Moss. I'm somewhat surprised by Supervisor Johnson's answer, but I guess I shouldn't be shocked. We have an opportunity to cure our financial situation with a quarter-cent sales tax, reduce our property tax to our local constituents. The 1/4% sales tax, approximately 60% of that is paid by people that don't live in Mohave County. They're people that travel through Mohave County. They're people that eat at our restaurants, stay in our motels, buy things that are at our other institutions. And it's just surprising to me that it's going to be requiring a unanimous vote in order for us to cure this problem and save money for the taxpayers of Mohave County. That's really all I have to say.
Thank you, Supervisor Watson. I will say that since Supervisor Johnson has been definitive on that issue, it's really not worth discussing, but I'd never believe in being afraid of stating a position. And I do agree with you largely, Supervisor Watson, is that if we had done the quarter-cent sales tax and then gave our property owners, which also affects our tenants because property taxes just get passed on to the tenant, I would have been very good with the quarter-cent sales tax if we had given the 40% tax relief back to our residents, so it's a net neutral to them, while at the same time solving our budgetary problem. Since that is not on the table, I will not support a property tax increase, and I believe that we will need to, personally speaking as one of 5, we need to look to the savings that County Administrator Hendricks and the staff has been very good at building up. I said this before at the last meeting, and I'll say it again. The reason why, just like in the Bible with the parable of the story of Joseph, when you have 7 years of plenty, you save, and they did that, and I'm proud of them for doing that, and they deserve much recommendations and kudos for doing that. But when it comes to the 7 years of want, that's the purpose of that fund. I'll turn it over to Supervisor Bishop.
Thank you, Chairman Moss, and very disappointed in Supervisor Johnson. I know he has his own reasons, but we've got the financial integrity of Mohave County in our hands. We know the state is going to continue to sweep funds from Mohave County for the next 3-4 years, and Mohave County's continually been going downhill for the last couple of years, just slightly, not enough to cause any concern. But if you look at the graph that our finance director provided for me, it just shows that 2013, 2014, 2015, we've gradually just gone down and down and down. And so the sales tax, a quarter-cent sales tax, would just be the answer. We could reduce property taxes, and gosh, without Supervisor Johnson's vote, it's a dead issue, so I don't know why I'm even talking about it, but it's something that would give us a diverse and balanced approach, and one that would be fiscally stable into the future. But since we can't do that unless Supervisor Johnson, and I beg of you to reconsider, would change his mind, I would, my next choice is probably going to be property taxes, and probably not going to get dinner fixed for me tonight if I have to vote that way. But I don't see kicking the can down the road is the answer for Mohave County. We've seen that we're going downhill. We're going to continue going downhill. We got to stop that decline. And Supervisor Moss and Angus are correct. We can make it through the next year with no problem. Mohave County's been very fiscally responsible. We have the money. That's not what I'm looking at. I'm looking at, what do we do next year? It's still going to be going down, but a little bit faster, because now we're using our revenue that's been banked in various accounts. And so next year we're going to be raising property taxes. So, why don't we just do it now, get it over with? What's it going to cost? An average $100,000 home is $19. Is that right?
Less than that.
Less than $19 a year. Oh, gosh, my husband spends that much just drinking coffee every morning at the restaurant he goes to. I don't like raising property taxes because I own a couple homes, and it only hurts the property owners as well as the renters, because the renters, they'll get their rent increased by their landlords, so it involves the renters. But the people that are traveling through our communities and using our roads, they get off the hook. So that's all I have to say. I want the sales tax. Supervisor Johnson, can you reconsider, please?
I'm not sure if that was a rhetorical.
Yeah, I don't.
That was a rhetorical or actual question. I'll assume it was rhetorical, and I'll go to Supervisor Angus.
Thank you. I disagree with the basic underlying premise that we are just taking for granted that the state is going to keep sweeping this money. We do not know that. In fact, we do not know anything about what's going to happen at the state. What we do know is that we have enough money in our budget this year to more than take care, without even making it uncomfortable for us, to get through this year, to see what's going to happen with the state, with our revenues, and if we need to raise taxes next year. I'm not one of those politicians who say I'll never raise taxes no matter what. I love Mohave County. And if we were really in that kind of trouble, I would be with Supervisor Bishop. But we are not in that kind of trouble right now. And I think it would be really reckless of us to just go to, well, let's just raise taxes now, or maybe we're going to do it next year. We might as well do it this year. I think that that's irresponsible. I'm sorry, Supervisor Bishop. So what I propose to do is to look at the funds. Well, Supervisor Moss, actually this was really his proposal. I had made some proposals. This was going back and forth. Oh, and before I forget, because I made a note of it, just to say that it's $100,000, it's a cup of coffee, it's a day out. You're talking about a small house in Mohave County. There are businesses that a property tax is going to affect greatly. And I believe, and that's just us, we're just 17% of the tax bill. We all know that the separate taxing districts are going to go up this year. I think in Lake Havasu already, they've been told they're getting a tremendous increase in their school tax. And if we don't have to this year, why would we want to burden the taxpayers of Mohave County even more? Let's just be different. So with that, I'm going to make a motion. May I, Chairman?
Sure.
Moss? Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to close this year's budget gap of $3.8 million by reallocating $3.8 million from the Motor Vehicle Replacement Fund to our general fund. In addition, I propose we take $1,995,968 million from the excess money in our TV district and implement the following cuts to county administration amounting to $904,000. $720,000 from the sheriff's office, $141,000 from the assessor's office, $36,000 from the Board of Supervisors budgets, and $7,000 from the school superintendent's office, for a total of $2,899,958 to be added to our contingency fund.
Is there a second? I'll second that. Is there any further discussion?
Have some discussion.
If I could.
I'll start with the lady, and then I'll go with the gentleman.
I don't know, I'm shocked, but there's a couple things I want to say. You know, if we're going to take all that money from the vehicle replacement fund, I'd rather buy some road graders and some operators and improve my roads in Golden Valley. I think my constituents in the remote areas that drive on these dirt roads would rather see that money put to work for road improvements. The other thing that I wanted to point out is we've got some unfunded liabilities coming up that we have no idea about. We've got some bankruptcies. I've got a list here: the court pipeline and the power generation tax cases. We've got attorney fees for water issues that we don't know if we're going to have to pay or not. We've got the ACIP liability lawsuits. We've got public safety retirement. We've got the PTO that we're working on now. That's an unknown. We have building maintenance to take care of. The jail, we're wanting to pay that off early, which is going to save us money. We have inflation. We have increases in the IT licensing agreements. We have increases in the yearly service contracts. We've got the animal shelter screaming to be built. And then we got decreases in the treasurer investment revenues. And we don't know what the state's going to do, but they told us that it's probably going to continue. So there's just so many unknowns. Do we have enough money to get us through this next year? Probably, unless some of these things backfire on us, and maybe not. So I'm adamantly opposed, and I'll be voting against this.
Okay. Supervisor Watson.
Thank you, Chairman Moss, and thank you for outlining those items.
That's probably just some of them.
Supervisor Bishop, and I know it's only a portion of them. 2 weeks ago, Sheriff Mohave at the podium indicated to us that he's operating his entire sheriff's department at 70% of capacity. Is that acceptable to each and every one of us for the safety of Mohave County? I don't know of any department in Mohave County that is fully staffed. Yes, we can kick the can down the road 1 year. There are a number of items that could hit us and reduce our contingency funds to zero, and that is no place to be. It would be like operating Mohave County back in 1999, and believe me, friends, that was not a lot of fun. So it's imperative upon us to make sure that we keep enough funds available to operate Mohave County, take a look at possibly helping Sheriff Mohave and increasing his ability to protect Mohave County. Also, take a look at the possibility of making sure that all our departments are staffed properly. So, as with Supervisor Bishop, I will be giving a no vote.
Supervisor Johnson, do you have any commentary?
The only comment I would have, the part I don't agree with, the sweeping of funds, I have no problem with $3 million from the vehicle fund because that's the general started, but that's all I had to say, Chairman.
Okay. I will make the commentary on, I'll just limit my comments to the Sheriff's Department. My understanding is we're talking about the budget, not actual expenditures. Sheriff Mohave indicated the $720,000 that would be coming out of his budget are for 6 new hires that he wouldn't be able to get to that this year, but he would be coming back to us next year to put back into his budget. So we're not talking about taking away officers from him. We're talking about dealing with deputies, rather, that he couldn't hire this year anyway if he wanted to. So I don't think law enforcement in Mohave County is suffering from that particular cut.
Chairman
Having said
Moss,
that, yes.
Can I ask one more question? The road equipment that Supervisor Bishop was talking about, that's already been allocated through the HERF funds. That's not coming from the motor vehicle replacement fund. There's already been allotted for extra equipment.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Angus, currently the board funds all of our road maintenance out of the HERF Highway User Revenue Funds. No general fund or other funds actually go into HERF funding. However, that doesn't preclude the county from utilizing whatever funds and putting them into the road maintenance fund. So the proposal that Supervisor Bishop talked about is feasible.
So, but you also, that would be an affirmative yes to Supervisor Angus's question that we've already buying some bladers and whatnot out of the HERF funds in the current budget proposal? Because I tend to remember 3 or 4 new blades being bought.
We're actually, the proposal this year out of HERF is to increase the motor vehicle, or the blade equipment by one motor grader, and I believe they're also hiring 3 employees. And generally, just to clarify, we tailor our maintenance to the amount of funds received. So depending on how much HERF funds we receive during a year is how much maintenance we're able to perform.
I understand. Thank you. So,
And one more question, and the other things like the IT licenses, that's already in the budget as well. I mean, we're not cutting from IT. We chose these targeted cuts. Originally, they were asked for an across-the-board cuts. I don't like across-the-board cuts. Why take away, like we do need things fully staffed, fee-generating departments. So that's why we specifically chose these departments because, and they're things like the licenses are already taken care of in the budget.
are there any other commentary? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. We should probably take it by a roll call vote, just to make sure we got it. I think we've already got 2 of them on record on it.
Supervisor Watson?
No.
Supervisor Angus?
Yay.
Supervisor Johnson?
No.
Supervisor Bishop?
No.
And Chairman Moss?
Yes. Motion fails 2-3. Item 48 of the agenda.
I would like to make a
Before you
secondary
move
motion.
to item 48.
No, it's the same item. We need a new motion on item 48.
Okay. Thank you. I didn't want to interrupt. Chair.
I would like-
Supervisor Bishop, thank you.
Even though this is going to fail, I feel in my heart I need to do it. So I would like to make a motion that we have a quarter-cent sales tax, and we reduce the TB tax by 2 cents. That's my motion.
You're moving that we reduce the TV tax by 2 cents and that we have a quarter-cent sales tax?
That's correct.
Okay. We'll do the same roll call. Oh, we need a second. I'm sorry. Is there anyone willing to second that?
Let me make sure that I'm getting this right. Approve a 1/4% sales tax, reduce the property tax by 5 cents,
The TB district tax.
the general fund property tax by 5 cents.
The property tax I would leave as is. That would be my motion, to reduce the TB district tax by 2 cents and establish the sales tax, quarter-cent sales tax.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I think Supervisor Watson is still confused. He's got that look.
I will separate myself so you guys can make eye contact. Do you want?
I believe what I heard, but I'm not positive, was to initiate the other 1/4% sales tax,
Yes.
reduce the property tax by 5 cents, and reduce the TV district by 2 cents, as requested by Supervisor Angus. Is that the motion?
That's not correct. I was going to leave property taxes as they are.
We have an opportunity to reduce the property tax and give our constituents an opportunity for...
That's true, Supervisor Watson, but I think since we're the 3rd lowest county in Mohave County on property tax, that we're okay there, so.
I think everyone's clear. We're Supervisor.
I'll second the motion, but I don't know that we're going to be successful.
Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, we're the third lowest tax, but we're also one of the poorest. I just want that on the record.
We're in the top and bottom 5 poorest in the United States, not just Arizona.
That's right.
But we'll do another roll call vote.
Supervisor Watson?
Yes.
Supervisor Angus?
No.
Supervisor Johnson?
No.
Supervisor Bishop?
Yes.
And Chairman Moss.
No. Is there anyone else who'd like to take I'll take a stab.
Sure, Chairman Moss, if I could, please. Yes, I'd like to thank, actually, Supervisor Johnson on his treatise on the budget and his recommendations for solving our problems. While increasing the property tax is not my favorite endeavor, in lieu of the fact that we need to keep Mohave County solvent, we need to make sure that we cover all bases and we're not facing a severe situation next year. I would be more than willing to hear from Supervisor Johnson on his proposal to raise the property tax by 15 cents.
Do you have anything you'd like to say on that, Supervisor Johnson?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. I can make a motion off by and previously that we raised property tax place state shift this year of $500,000 million with an explanation to go to our voters to the reason for this is the shifts by the legislature and that we sweep funds or we reinstate the $2.5 million or $3 million that we seeded the motor with, put that back into the contingency fund or the general fund, and that the only other thing would be that we reinstate merit increases.
I'm not certain we got all of that, but make sure. Jenny, did you get enough that you can read it back to us? He's breaking up. You're breaking up a little bit on the motion, Supervisor Johnson. And so
all right, I'll try it again. Can you hear me any better?
I can hear you very clearly now.
Okay, I make a motion to increase property tax by 15 cents for this year, and same time to submit an explanation with tax bills and make a public statement as this is to cover the $2.5 million we lost this coming year from the state, and also with that to reinstate our merit increases so we start that going forward again. Also to transfer back into the general fund the seed money that we gave to the motor pool.
And I'll second the motion.
What? I'm confused. So the 15 cent, and we're going to start giving merit increases in this motion?
I guess I don't need that. I'll scratch that part.
And you want to put in the motor vehicle seed money? You want to take that out and put it into the contingency fund?
Right, back into the general fund.
So, all right, 3 million or 3.8 million?
Whatever this money was.
The 3 million?
3 million, yes.
And what was the last thing? Was there one more thing?
There was a letter or
the
statement
letter that
they were
goes
going to
in.
make as to why it was necessary.
And I'll amend the motion.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Watson. So we have an amended motion, which, as I understand it, is a 15-cent property tax increase. That we do a statement to the public as that this is to offset the shifts in this general fund seed money that was used to establish the motor vehicle replacement fund would be returned to the general fund. Have I accurately stated your motion, Supervisor Johnson?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and we have a second. We'll do it by roll call vote again.
Supervisor Watson?
Yes.
Supervisor Angus?
No.
Supervisor Johnson?
Yes.
Supervisor Bishop?
Yes.
And Chairman Moss?
No.
3 to 2. Yeses, 3 to no.
There's one other aspect of this before we move on from item 48. What do we want to do with the TV district tax? Because it's currently at 7. I believe the recommendation was to move it to 5. I'll make a motion that we reduce the TV district tax from 7 cents to 5 cents.
I'll second that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just for clarification from Mr. X, do we need to be sitting as the Board of Directors TV district when we do this?
Mr. Supervisor Johnson, Mr. Chairman, that would be appropriate. Not absolutely necessary, but I'd recommend you do that. But there's actually nothing on the agenda, so let's stick with what we're doing. I withdraw my comment and say,
Okay,
just go forward.
so you're saying we should wait until we do the levies in order to deal with that?
No, you can do it. You can deal with it today.
Oh, okay, all right. All right. What's that? That we reduce the TV district tax from 7 cents to 5 cents. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, how much money will that give us?
I would have to go back to Cora Lloyd. It is in the backup. I spun past that like 50 pages ago. So.
The current 7 cents raises about 1.2 million. That would drop the tax to about $845,000.
Is that what it costs to run the TV district?
It's a little over $900,000 to run the TV district, so we would have to make a cut there.
But how much is there right now? Sitting in the TV district?
We had over 3 million, 3.2 million, I believe, and then we would sweep 1.9 million.
And since we have never really had been told how much this new broadcast system is going to cost us, it probably wouldn't be a good idea to lessen it right now, honestly.
Okay, is there any further commentary on reducing the TV district tax?
Mr. Chairman, I think
Yes.
there has to be a levy limit hearing.
Yeah, we have to.
Is that correct? There has to be a levy limit hearing.
Yes, there is a hearing at the levy, right?
Okay.
This isn't the
And
time.
I believe my proposal is only for purposes of building it into the budget. When it comes to the hearing, we'd still do that, right?
That's correct. It's my understanding you're just discussing things for the budget itself.
Right. Okay. I believe I have a second from Supervisor Bishop.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, just for my own clarification, doesn't that have to be done in July, though? We're going to have another special meeting?
No, this is for property taxes for the TV district. It doesn't have to be 5-0. It does have to go to a levy limit hearing, but for purposes of giving instruction for Ms. Lloyd to build her budget, I think we have to deal with it so she knows how to build her budget, which will come back to us and we'll have a levy limit hearing. And everything, all the Ts will be crossed and all the Is dotted before the final budget in August.
Okay, my question is, though, don't we have to, not disagreeing with talking about, but that levy limit has to be in July, and I don't have a meeting scheduled, do we?
I believe we have a July 20th board meeting coming up where the tentative budget is going to be brought back to us from Ms. Lloyd once she knows what the number is she is working with, and this is one of those numbers.
Sound. Thank you.
All right, we'll do a roll call again.
Supervisor Watson?
Yes.
Supervisor Angus?
This is for the.
This is to reduce from 7 to 5
Yes.
cents. Supervisor Johnson?
Yes.
Supervisor Bishop?
Yes.
And Chairman Moss?
Yes. All right, is there anything we forgot, Ms. Lloyd or Mr. Hendricks, on item 48 that we need to deal with in order for you to put together the tentative budget?
No, I don't believe so. That covers it, provides us direction to go to at least prepare the tentative budget, which will be the ceiling. And as well, we've got a list of modifications where there have been changes since we did the original preliminary budget that are known, where revenues are reduced or expenses are going to be modified, and some errors that were typos, if you will, on some of the numbers. Well, we'll just deal with that with the tentative budget, but certainly the outcome of some of the court cases will certainly increase the contingency request. I'd provided that information to you subsequent to that meeting. Even if we do not impose all of these changes or whatnot, all of the budget cuts, there still may be some, I just want to clarify that there still probably will be some of the contingency items that will come before you throughout the year regardless of the outcome. And again, the direction that you're just providing is direction to us. You can still make a different decision on the tentative and final budget adoptions.
And for the public, that means that we've given the staff, including Ms. Lloyd and Mr. Hendricks, direction. We'll have a tentative budget on July 20th. Eventually on August 3rd or thereabouts, there'll be a final budget for us to vote on. Yes, Supervisor Watson.
Thank you, Chairman Moss. And Ms. Lloyd, are we at the max on the library district?
I don't know. Is that the maximum rate? On the library district, is that the maximum rate? I don't know. We'll have to look at that.
Okay, if we could look at that and leave a placeholder in that for that. There's a beautiful, huge library in Lake Havasu City. There's a beautiful, huge library in Bullhead City. And Kingman is still working out of modular buildings. So I was wondering if we could take a good look at that for a possible
I would
change in that.
Put it on the agenda, and we'll be glad to talk about it.
Thank you very much.
These are wonderful things.
If you'll check into that possibility, thank you.
I will. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Supervisor Johnson.
Sorry, one last. Ms. Lloyd needs to see she's talking about funding for the cuts, but I will still be looking at cuts when she brings it back.
I believe that's still on the table when it comes to the tentative budget. I think we just gave her an idea as to her revenue streams, and then we'll be poking at things when it comes to the rest of it on the 20th.
Yeah, absolutely. There are some areas where we didn't know, like with some of the state cost shifts that occurred this year, whether those were going to be cut out of the revenue stream or that they were going to be billed and we were going to have to include those in an expense. And so far, they're kind of a mixed bag. We know we've received one bill, so we're going to have to certainly increase a line item for one of those items where we know they're going to bill us for it. So some of those kinds of things will be coming back.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lloyd. Going on to item 49, discussion of possible action, Ray, approval of the Desert Tortoise Management Oversight Group, MOG, charter confirming Mohave County's membership and approval of the Quad State Local Governments Authority representing Mohave County at the MOG meetings as needed. Supervisor Johnson.
Mr. Chairman, I gave a report on this earlier. They have finally allowed or let counties into the MOG. This is the agreement and the charter that we need to sign if we want to be part of it.
Thank you, Supervisor Johnson. I have committed a huge social faux pas. When I was pushing my papers around, I saw a request to speak form from Kip Anderson on item 48. Kip, did we deal with your issue even though I didn't ask you to speak? Because I should have asked you to come up. Thank you, Kip. Well, he said he'll come back on the 20th. I want to apologize to the public and to Kip. I literally have dozens of requests to speak forms, and that one got buried where it shouldn't have been, and I do apologize. All right, Supervisor Johnson, thank you for those comments. Supervisor Watson, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Just a moment to thank Supervisor Johnson for all the work that he's doing on the tortoise issue. It's a great deal of work, a lot of meetings to attend, and pretty thankless. But I'd like to go on record as saying thank you. Buster, you're doing a great job.
Thank you. Just for your, I know we've gone on forever all day, but part of the problem that really gets my goat at those meetings is that we had one district in the Nevada district that saw a increase in tortoise, but yet when I ask, well, why don't we duplicate what Nevada does, the other areas, we don't know why the taxes went up. After 20 years, that is $500 million. It's just so frustrating to go to those meetings.
Thank you, Supervisor Watson and Johnsons, for your comments. Are there any other comments? Seeing none, can I have a motion on a very worthy idea at item 49?
I'll put that in the form of a motion.
All right.
Second motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve item 49. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. We are done for today. The meeting is adjourned. Do we need a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right. Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, there we go.
Very good. Very good.